What would you do if a stranger appeared in your home, teaching your child secrets you never knew existed? Marcus Ashford thought he knew the answer. He was wrong. This is the story of a billionaire who built an empire on control, only to discover that the one person he threw away held the key to everything he'd lost. A homeless girl with haunting green eyes. A daughter who stopped speaking. And security footage that revealed a truth so dark, it would bring the most powerful man in New York to his knees. Picture this, a courtroom packed with reporters. Cameras flashing. Marcus Ashford, the Marcus Ashford, worth $4.7 billion, standing before a judge, his hands trembling as footage plays on the screen behind him. And there she is. No longer in tattered clothes, but in a prosecutor's suit, her voice steady as she says the words that will destroy him. Your Honor, I have evidence that Marcus Ashford knew exactly what happened the night his wife disappeared. The gallery erupts. His daughter screams. And Marcus realizes too late that the homeless girl he kicked out wasn't there to take something from him. She was there to take everything. But let's go back. Back to where it all began, in the glittering towers of Manhattan's Upper East Side, where money flows like champagne and secrets hide behind marble facades. Marcus Ashford wasn't born into privilege. He clawed his way up from foster care, from nothing, building Ashford Industries into a tech empire that revolutionized cybersecurity. Self-made. Ruthless. Untouchable. He had the penthouse. The private jets. The influence that made politicians return his calls. But 3 years ago, his wife, the beautiful, mysterious Catherine Ashford, vanished without a trace. No body. No ransom. Just gone. The investigation went cold. The media moved on. Marcus didn't. He became a man obsessed with control. Every camera angle. Every background check. Every person who came near his daughter, Lily, was scrutinized, investigated, monitored. Because if he couldn't protect his wife, he'd be damned if he lost his daughter too. What you're about to witness is the unraveling of a man who thought he could buy safety, and the revenge of a woman who lost everything to his secrets. This is a story about wealth, power, and the devastating cost of buried truths. But more than that, it's about a little girl caught between them, and the choice she'll make that no 8-year-old should ever have to face. Because sometimes, the people we push away are the only ones who can save us. And sometimes, they're the ones who've come to watch us burn. Before we dive into this incredible 2-hour journey, welcome to the channel. I want to be honest with you. This video took over 40 hours to research, 15 hours to write, and another 20 hours to produce. Every twist, every revelation, every emotional beat you're about to experience was carefully crafted to bring you the most compelling version of this story. If you appreciate that level of dedication, please hit the subscribe button right now. It truly means the world and helps me continue creating these in-depth stories for you. And here's something I want you to think about as we begin. Have you ever judged someone by their appearance, only to discover you were completely wrong about who they really were? Drop your answer in the comments below, because this story will make you question everything you think you know about the homeless, the wealthy, and the thin line between victim and villain. Now let's begin. It started on a Tuesday evening in October. The kind of evening where the autumn air bites just enough to remind you that winter is coming. Marcus Ashford sat in his office on the 47th floor, watching the city lights flicker below like fallen stars, when his phone buzzed with an alert he never expected to see. Security breach. Unauthorized individual on property. His blood ran cold. Marcus Ashford's security system was the most advanced money could buy. 72 cameras. Motion sensors on every window. Facial recognition software that could identify a threat from 300 yards away. His estate in the Hamptons sprawled across 12 acres of manicured perfection, surrounded by walls that made it look more like a compound than a home. Because Marcus knew something most billionaires didn't want to admit. Wealth made you a target. He'd learned that lesson the hard way. The alert on his phone showed camera 47, the East Garden, near Lily's favorite gazebo. Marcus pulled up the live feed, his jaw clenching as the image loaded. There she was. A young woman, maybe mid-20s, sitting cross-legged on the stone bench. Her clothes were dirty, worn at the edges. Her dark hair hung in tangles past her shoulders. Everything about her screamed homeless, desperate, dangerous. And she was sitting with his daughter. Marcus was out of his chair before he could think. His hand hit the intercom. Security. East Garden. Now. But something made him pause. Something made him zoom in on that camera feed one more time. Lily was smiling. Not the polite, empty smile she gave her tutors. Not the forced happiness she showed at birthday parties filled with children of his business associates. This was real. Her whole face lit up as she pointed at something in the sky, and the homeless girl, this intruder, pointed with her, explaining something that made Lily's eyes go wide with wonder. When was the last time he'd seen that look on his daughter's face? Marcus felt something twist in his chest. Then he remembered who he was. What he'd built. What he'd lost. He grabbed his coat and headed for the door. To understand Marcus Ashford, you need to understand where he came from. Not the penthouse on Fifth Avenue worth $32 million. Not the private island in the Bahamas or the collection of vintage cars that could fund a small country's budget. You need to understand the group home in Newark where he spent ages 6 through 17. The place where heat was optional in winter and safety was never guaranteed. Marcus's parents died in a car accident when he was 6. No extended family stepped up. The system swallowed him whole, spitting him between 7 different foster homes before he landed in a group facility that housed 43 kids and 6 overworked staff members. He learned 3 things there that shaped everything he became. First, trust no one. The kids who trusted got robbed. The kids who trusted got hurt. Second, money was the only real power. The kids with wealthy parents who visited, who sent packages, who paid for lawyers, those kids got out. The rest stayed trapped. Third, if you wanted to survive, you had to be smarter than everyone else. Marcus dove into books like they were life rafts. While other kids fought in the common room, he studied. While they gave up on homework, he excelled. He taught himself to code on a donated computer that barely functioned, spending nights in the facility's dim library, his fingers flying across keys worn smooth by use. At 17, he won a full scholarship to MIT. Full ride, room and board. Everything. The day he left that group home, he made himself a promise. He would never be powerless again. Marcus graduated top of his class with a degree in computer science and cybersecurity. While his classmates took cushy jobs at established companies, Marcus saw an opportunity everyone else missed. This was 2004. Data breaches were becoming headline news. Companies were hemorrhaging customer information, losing millions, but cybersecurity was still treated like an afterthought, something you dealt with after you got hacked. Marcus approached it differently. He developed an AI-driven security system that predicted vulnerabilities before hackers could exploit them. Machine learning that adapted in real time. A system that didn't just protect data, it anticipated every possible attack vector and sealed it shut. He called it Sentinel Protocol. He was 23 years old. The first company that bought his software was a mid-sized bank in Boston. They paid him $80,000 for a 6-month contract. Marcus took that money, hired 2 developers from his MIT network, and refined the system. 6 months later, that bank didn't experience a single breach while 3 of their competitors got hammered by a coordinated cyber attack. The industry noticed. Within a year, Marcus had contracts with 12 major corporations. Within 3 years, Ashford Industries was the gold standard in cybersecurity. Every Fortune 500 company, every government agency, every institution that couldn't afford to lose data came to Marcus. By the time he was 30, his company was valued at $1.2 billion. By 35, he was worth $4.7 billion personally. Marcus had done it. He'd built something from nothing. Created wealth that would have seemed impossible to that scared kid in the Newark group home. But here's what they don't tell you about building an empire. You can lose yourself in the foundation. Marcus met Catherine Hayes at a charity gala in Manhattan. One of those events where tickets cost $10,000 and everyone pretended they cared about the cause while really just networking. Marcus hated those events. But they were necessary. Business happened in ballrooms just as much as boardrooms. She approached him at the bar. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," she said, her voice warm with amusement. Marcus turned. The woman beside him was stunning, Not in the artificial way of the other women at the gala, all designer dresses and practiced smiles. Catherine wore simple black, minimal jewelry, and had an easiness about her that felt genuine. Is it that obvious? Marcus replied. Only to someone who feels exactly the same way. She extended her hand. Catherine Hayes. I run the foundation. Marcus blinked. This was the woman his assistant had told him about, the one organizing the entire event. He'd assumed she'd be older, more corporate. Marcus Ashford. I know who you are, Catherine said. The man who built Sentinel Protocol from a dorm room. Very impressive. It wasn't a dorm room. It was a group home library with a computer that crashed every 20 minutes. Something shifted in Catherine's expression. You came from the system. It wasn't a question. Marcus nodded slowly, unsure why he told her that. He never talked about his past. So did I, Catherine said quietly. Foster care, ages 8 to 18. Queens. In that moment, something passed between them. Recognition. Understanding. Two people who'd climbed out of the same hole and made it to a world that would never fully accept them. They talked for 3 hours that night. Not about business or money or the superficial nonsense that filled these events. They talked about survival. About the weight of success when you had no family to share it with. About the fear that one wrong move would send you sliding back to where you started. 6 months later, Marcus proposed. A year after that, they were married in a small ceremony at City Hall. No huge wedding, no media circus. Just two people who understood each other in a way neither had thought possible. Catherine was his partner. His equal. The only person who saw through the armor he'd built and loved him anyway. When Lily was born 2 years later, Marcus thought he'd finally found the one thing money couldn't buy, a family. For 5 years he was happy. Truly, genuinely happy. And then Catherine disappeared. It was supposed to be a normal evening. Marcus was in Tokyo for a security conference. Catherine and 7-year-old Lily were home in the Hamptons. They'd FaceTimed before Lily's bedtime. Marcus had read her a story through the screen, watching her eyes get heavy as she cuddled her stuffed elephant. I love you, Daddy, Lily had mumbled, already half asleep. I love you more, sweetheart. Catherine had tucked her in, then returned to the screen. Call me when you land, she'd said. And Marcus? Be safe. Always. Those were the last words they ever spoke. At 2:47 a.m. Eastern Time, the house security system went offline. All 72 cameras. Every sensor. Everything Marcus had built to protect his family just died. When security was restored 43 minutes later, Catherine was gone. Her phone was on the nightstand. Her purse in the kitchen. Her car in the garage. No signs of struggle. No forced entry. No ransom note. Just absence. The police investigated for months. FBI got involved due to Marcus's wealth and connections. Every lead went nowhere. Every theory collapsed. Catherine Hayes Ashford had vanished like smoke, leaving behind a traumatized daughter and a husband spiraling into paranoia. The official conclusion, presumed dead. Marcus never accepted it. How do you lose someone that completely? How does a security system that sophisticated just fail? Marcus had built his entire company on the premise that his technology was unhackable. Either someone had help from the inside, or Catherine had planned it herself. Neither option made sense. Neither option brought her back. But both options meant the same thing. Marcus had failed to protect what mattered most. The 3 years after Catherine's disappearance transformed Marcus into someone unrecognizable. He upgraded the security system. Then upgraded it again. And again. He hired private investigators who found nothing. He pushed away friends who tried to help. Business associates who once had his personal number now went through 3 assistants just to schedule a meeting. Marcus stopped attending events. Stopped doing interviews. Stopped everything except work and watching over Lily like a hawk circling prey. The penthouse became a fortress. The Hamptons estate became a surveillance compound. Everywhere Lily went, Marcus knew. Every person she spoke to was vetted, investigated, monitored. He told himself it was protection. It was prison. Lily stopped talking about her mother after the first year. The therapist said that was normal, that children process trauma differently. But Marcus saw the light fade from her eyes. Saw her become more withdrawn, more isolated. She went through 5 tutors in 2 years. Not because they were incompetent, Marcus hired the best, but because Lily wouldn't engage. She'd sit through lessons with perfect posture and empty eyes, completing assignments mechanically, speaking only when absolutely necessary. The girl who'd once filled the house with laughter became a ghost living in her own life. Marcus threw money at the problem. Better therapists. More activities. A tutor from Switzerland who specialized in gifted children. Nothing worked. He was losing his daughter, and he didn't know how to stop it. Maybe that's why, when the security alert came that October evening, Marcus felt something beyond anger. He felt relief. Finally, a threat he could see. A problem he could solve. Someone he could remove. Marcus had no idea he was about to meet the one person who would unravel every lie he'd built his life around. Marcus stormed across the east lawn, his security chief and 2 guards flanking him. The October wind bit through his shirt, but he barely noticed. All he could see was that figure sitting with his daughter, filling her head with God knows what. As he approached, he could hear them talking. "And that's Orion's belt," the woman was saying, pointing at the darkening sky. 3 stars in a perfect line. Ancient sailors used it to navigate home. "Home," Lily repeated softly. "That's nice." "Lily." Marcus's voice cracked like a whip. His daughter jumped. The homeless woman turned slowly, and for the first time, Marcus saw her face clearly. She was younger than he'd thought. Mid-20s, maybe. Dirt smudged her cheek, but beneath it, her features were delicate, almost aristocratic. And her eyes. Those green eyes looked at him with no fear. Just a deep, unsettling sadness. "Step away from my daughter," Marcus said, his voice cold enough to freeze. "Daddy, wait," Lily started. "Inside. Now." But Lily didn't move. She looked between Emma and her father, something like panic crossing her features. "She wasn't hurting me. She was just." "I said inside." Marcus rarely raised his voice at Lily. The sharpness of it made her flinch. She ran toward the house, casting one last look back at Emma before disappearing through the glass doors. Marcus turned his full attention to the woman. Security had hands on their weapons, waiting for his signal. "You have 30 seconds to explain why I shouldn't have you arrested for trespassing." Emma stood slowly. She was tall, nearly eye level with him. Despite her appearance, she held herself with quiet dignity. "My name is Emma Chase," she said. "And I wasn't here to hurt your daughter, Mr. Ashford. I was here to teach her." "Teach her?" Marcus's laugh was sharp. "You broke into my property." "I didn't break in. The gate was open. I saw a little girl sitting alone in a garden, crying. I asked if she was okay." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You expect me to believe?" "She told me she was lonely," Emma continued, her voice gentle but firm. "That her father was always working. That everyone around her treats her like something fragile instead of someone real." Each word hit like a physical blow. "She needed someone who actually sees her, Mr. Ashford. Money can't buy that." "Security," Marcus said through clenched teeth. "Escort her out." The guards moved forward, but Emma raised a hand. "I'll leave. But before I do, you should know something." She reached into her pocket. Every guard tensed. But what she pulled out wasn't a weapon. It was a small photograph, creased with age. "Your daughter showed me her mother's picture," Emma said quietly. "She's beautiful. Lily must miss her terribly." Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. "How dare you? She told me her mother disappeared. That you tell her she's dead, but you don't really believe it." Emma's eyes held his. "She asked me if I thought her mother was still out there somewhere. If maybe she left because she didn't want them anymore." Marcus's hands were shaking. "Get out. An 8-year-old shouldn't have to wonder if her mother abandoned her, Mr. Ashford. Get out." Emma held his gaze for one more moment. Then she turned and walked toward the gate, her steps measured, unhurried. Marcus watched her go, rage and something else, something he couldn't name, churning in his chest. As security escorted her through the gate, Emma looked back once. "She deserves better." she called. And deep down you know it. The gate clanged shut. Marcus stood in the empty garden, his daughter's absence like a wound, and for the first time in 3 years, he felt something crack in the armor he'd built. Marcus couldn't sleep that night. He sat in his office, the security footage playing on multiple screens. He'd pulled up every camera angle from the past week, searching for when that woman, Emma Chase, had first appeared. What he found made his skin crawl. She hadn't just wandered onto the property once. Emma had been there 6 times in the past 3 weeks. Always at dusk. Always near the garden. And she'd been watching. In one clip from 2 weeks ago, she stood at the edge of the property line, perfectly still, staring at the house for nearly an hour. In another, she walked the perimeter, stopping at specific points, the blind spots in his camera coverage. She was studying the property, learning its rhythms, planning. Marcus's hands flew across the keyboard. He ran her name through every database he had access to. Criminal records. Social media. Employment history. Nothing. Emma Chase didn't exist in any official capacity. No driver's license. No credit cards. No digital footprint whatsoever. Either she was using a fake name, or she deliberately erased herself from the system. Both options were terrifying. Marcus pulled up the footage from tonight, zooming in on the moment Emma had reached into her pocket. He enhanced the image, focusing on the silver bracelet on her wrist. His breath caught. That bracelet. He knew that bracelet. Marcus opened another window, pulling up old photos from his personal files. Pictures from happier times. Catherine at the beach. Catherine at their wedding. Catherine holding newborn Lily. In every photo on Catherine's left wrist was the same distinctive silver bracelet. Custom made in Italy. A one-of-a-kind piece Marcus had given her for their first anniversary. The design was unique, interlocking infinity symbols with tiny emeralds at each connection point. And Emma Chase was wearing it. Marcus's world tilted. How did a homeless woman have his wife's bracelet? The one Catherine had been wearing the night she disappeared? His mind raced through possibilities. Maybe Emma had found it. Maybe she'd bought it at a pawn shop. Maybe it was just similar, and Marcus was seeing connections that weren't there because he was desperate. Or maybe Marcus pushed the thought away. It was impossible. But he couldn't unsee it. Couldn't unknow it. He watched the footage again. And again. Studying Emma's face. Her mannerisms. The way she tilted her head when she talked. The way she moved. There was something familiar there. Something that tugged at his memory. At 4 a.m., Marcus made a decision. He wasn't going to call the police. He wasn't going to file a restraining order. He was going to find out exactly who Emma Chase was. Why she was wearing his wife's bracelet. And what she wanted with his daughter. Because Marcus Ashford hadn't built a billion-dollar empire by trusting coincidences. And this? This was no coincidence. If you were in Marcus's position, a parent whose child finally seemed happy again, but with someone who might be dangerous, what would you do? Protect your child by keeping them isolated, or take the risk and find out the truth? Let me know in the comments what choice you'd make. Because Marcus's choice is about to change everything. Marcus hired the best private investigator in New York at 6 a.m. the next morning. Daniel Torres had 20 years with the FBI before going private. He found people who didn't want to be found. Uncovered secrets buried under layers of lies. His rate was $1,500 an hour, and he was worth every penny. I need everything on a woman named Emma Chase, Marcus said, sliding a photo across the mahogany desk. He'd pulled it from last night's security footage. Enhanced, sharpened, crystal clear. Torres studied the image. Age range. Mid-20s. Appears to be homeless. No digital footprint I can find. Torres's eyebrow raised. No footprint at all? Nothing. Which means either she's using a fake name, or someone scrubbed her records. That's not easy to do. Torres leaned back. What's your interest in her? Marcus hesitated. Then he pulled out his phone, showing Torres the zoomed image of the bracelet. This belonged to my wife. Catherine disappeared 3 years ago wearing this exact piece. It's custom-made. One of a kind. Torres's expression shifted from professional to invested. You think this woman knows something about your wife's disappearance? I think she's wearing evidence from an open investigation. The police. The police gave up, Marcus cut in. I didn't. Torres nodded slowly. I'll need 48 hours. Maybe less. You have 24. Money is no object. Mr. Ashford. Torres stood, extending his hand. If this woman knows what happened to your wife, I'll find out. I promise you that. Marcus shook his hand, feeling something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Back at the estate, Lily refused to come out of her room. Marcus stood outside her door, his hand raised to knock, but the words wouldn't come. What could he say? I'm sorry I yelled at you. I'm sorry I pushed away the only person who made you smile. He knocked anyway. Go away, came Lily's small voice. Sweetheart, can we talk? Silence. Marcus tried the handle. But when had she learned to lock her door? Lily, I need you to understand. That woman, Emma, I don't know who she is. She could be dangerous. She wasn't dangerous. Lily's voice cracked. She was nice to me. She asked me questions and actually listened and... Her voice broke into sobs. Marcus pressed his forehead against the door. I'm trying to protect you. You're trying to keep me in a cage. The words hit harder than a physical blow. That's not fair, Marcus said quietly. Yes it is. Mom's gone and you won't let me have anyone. I can't make friends because you investigate everyone. I can't go anywhere because you're scared something will happen. I can't even be sad because it makes you feel bad. Marcus had no response. Because she was right. Every word was true. I just want to be normal, Lily whispered through the door. Just for one day. Is that too much? Marcus stood there for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice thick. I love you, Lily. Everything I do is because I love you. I know, she said. But sometimes love feels like a prison. Marcus walked away from that door feeling like he'd failed at the only thing that truly mattered. Being a father. 18 hours later, Torres called. You need to see this, he said. In person. Marcus was in Torres's office within 30 minutes, his heart hammering. Torres had 3 computer monitors displaying different information. Photos. Documents. Timeline maps. Emma Chase is a ghost, Torres began. No record before 3 years ago. But I found something interesting. He pulled up a photo, a driver's license from New Jersey. Emma Catherine Morrison. Issued 4 years ago. Address in Newark. Marcus's blood ran cold. Emma Catherine? I noticed that too. Torres pulled up another image. The license photo matches your security footage. Same woman. But here's where it gets weird. He displayed a death certificate. Emma Catherine Morrison was declared dead 2 years ago. Drug overdose in a Newark shelter. Body cremated. Case closed. But she's alive, Marcus said. Very much so. Torres leaned forward. Which means either someone faked her death, or Emma stole a dead woman's identity. Either way, your homeless girl went to a lot of trouble to disappear. Marcus studied the driver's license photo. Emma looked different, healthier, fuller in the face, hair styled. But it was definitely her. What was she doing before the death certificate? Torres pulled up more files. High school dropout. Aged out of foster care at 18. Worked odd jobs. Waitressing, retail. No arrests. No flags. Just another kid the system chewed up and spit out. Foster care. Just like Marcus. Just like Catherine. There's more, Torres said. I tracked her last known address before the supposed death. Talked to some people who knew her. He pulled out a handwritten note. A former coworker remembered Emma because she had a sister. Younger sister. They were separated in the foster system but stayed in touch. The coworker said Emma was trying to save money to get custody of the sister. What happened to the sister? Marcus asked. Torres's expression darkened. She disappeared from her foster home 3 years ago. Same month your wife vanished. Girl's name was Sarah Morrison. Age 15. The timeline clicked into place like a lock opening. Marcus felt the room spin. You're telling me Emma's sister disappeared the same time as Catherine? Same week actually. Torres pulled up a missing person report. Sarah Morrison vanished from a group home in Queens on October 12th. Your wife disappeared October 14th. 2 days apart. The police never connected them? Why would they? Different boroughs, different circumstances. Your wife was a wealthy socialite. Sarah was a foster kid. The cases didn't even share a database. But Marcus saw the connection. He saw it clear as day. Emma thinks I had something to do with her sister's disappearance, he said slowly. Torres nodded. And she's been watching you for months, waiting for the right moment to make contact. Through Lily? Through your daughter? Yes. Marcus stood, his mind racing. If Emma believes I'm responsible for her sister vanishing, why approach Lily? Why not go to the police? Why not? Maybe she doesn't have proof, Torres interrupted. Maybe she's gathering evidence. Or maybe... He pulled up one final image. Security footage from Marcus's estate, but not from last night. This was older. 3 weeks ago. It showed Emma at the property line. But she wasn't alone. She was on a phone. I had a tech specialist enhance the audio, Torres said. He played the clip. Emma's voice came through, distorted but audible. I've confirmed he has her. She's using a different name, but it's definitely her. I'll need more time to get close enough to... Static. The rest is corrupted, Torres said. But it's clear Emma is working with someone. And she believes you have information about someone she's looking for. Marcus's hands were shaking. Find out who she was talking to. And find out where Emma is right now. Already on it. I've got people. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from his head of security. Motion detected. East Garden. Same individual as last night. Emma was back. Marcus found her exactly where she'd been before. Sitting on the stone bench in the gazebo, staring at the sky. This time he came alone. No security. No backup. Just two people and the truth hanging between them like a blade. You're either very brave or very stupid, Marcus said, approaching slowly. Emma turned. In the moonlight, she looked almost ethereal. Maybe both. I know who you are. Emma Catherine Morrison. Foster kid from Newark. Sister named Sarah who disappeared 3 years ago. Emma's expression didn't change. You work fast. I have resources. Marcus stopped a few feet away. And I know you think I had something to do with your sister vanishing. Did you? No. Then why did my sister's last text message say she was meeting someone connected to Catherine Ashford? Emma's voice remained steady, but Marcus heard the pain underneath. Why did she mention your wife's name an hour before she disappeared? Marcus felt like he'd been punched. That's not possible. Catherine didn't know any foster kids. She didn't. Your wife ran a foundation for at-risk youth, Emma interrupted. Or did you forget that part of her life? Sarah was part of a mentorship program Catherine personally managed. The foundation. Catherine's passion project. She'd spent hours every week working with kids from the system, giving them opportunities Marcus never had. He'd supported it financially but never paid much attention to the day-to-day operations. I didn't know, Marcus said quietly. Of course you didn't. Emma stood. You were too busy building your empire to notice what your wife was actually doing. Who she was helping. Who might have wanted to hurt her. What are you saying? Emma pulled out her phone, pulling up an old photograph. She held it out to Marcus. The image showed Catherine at some kind of event, surrounded by teenagers. And there, on Catherine's left, smiling at the camera, was a young girl with Emma's same green eyes. Sarah Morrison. My sister loved Catherine, Emma said softly. Said she was the only adult who ever really cared about what happened to her. Catherine was helping Sarah get emancipated, helping her find a job, a place to live. Marcus stared at the photo. Catherine had never mentioned Sarah specifically. There were so many kids in the program. The night Sarah disappeared, Emma continued, she texted me. Said Catherine wanted to meet her. Urgent. But when Sarah got to the meeting spot, some warehouse in Queens, Catherine never showed. Where's the text? Marcus demanded. Show me the text. The police have it. Had it. They dismissed it because Sarah was a known runaway. Emma's voice hardened. Just another throwaway kid. Nobody cared. I would have cared, Marcus said. If I'd known. Would you? Emma challenged. Or would you have done exactly what you did last night? Dismissed me, removed me, protected your perfect world from the messy reality of people like me and Sarah? The accusation stung because it was partially true. What do you want? Marcus asked. I want to know what happened to my sister. And I think the answer is buried somewhere in whatever happened to your wife. You think they're connected? I know they are. Emma stepped closer. Two women, both connected to you, both disappeared within days of each other. That's not coincidence. Marcus's mind raced. If Catherine had been meeting Sarah that night, if something had happened, why come here, he asked. Why approach my daughter? Emma's expression softened. Because Lily was the only way to get close to you. And because when I saw her sitting alone in that garden, crying, she paused. She reminded me of Sarah. But lonely. Desperate for someone to see her. So you used her? No. Emma's voice was firm. I helped her. There's a difference. I may be here for answers, but that doesn't mean I don't care about what happens to that little girl. Marcus wanted to be angry. Wanted to call security and have Emma removed permanently. But he couldn't. Because everything she'd said made a terrible kind of sense. The police concluded Catherine and Sarah's cases were unrelated, Marcus said finally. Separate investigations. Both went cold. Because they didn't know what I know, Emma replied. I've spent 3 years following every lead, talking to every person who knew Sarah. And every trail leads back to your wife. What if you're wrong? What if they really are unrelated? Then I wasted 3 years of my life. Emma's voice cracked slightly. But I don't think I'm wrong. And I think you don't either. Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then he made a decision that would change everything. I have resources you don't have. Investigators. Access to records. Money to dig where others can't. Emma watched him carefully. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we work together. You share everything you know about Sarah's disappearance. I share everything I know about Catherine's. We investigate this properly from the beginning. Why would you do that? Marcus met her eyes. Because if there's even a chance Catherine is still alive, I need to know. And if someone hurt both of them. His voice hardened. Then I want to find them. Emma considered this. You realize I might find out things about your wife you don't want to know. About who she really was. What she might have been involved in. I realize that. And you're willing to risk it? For the truth. Marcus nodded. Yes. Emma extended her hand. Then we have a deal. Marcus shook it, feeling the calluses on her palm, the strength in her grip. This woman had survived on the streets for 3 years, never giving up on finding her sister. She was tougher than he'd given her credit for. There's one condition, Marcus added. You don't approach Lily again without my permission. Whatever this is, she doesn't get caught in the middle. Emma's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Agreed. Good. Marcus pulled out his phone. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. My office in the city. Bring everything you have on Sarah. Every note, every lead, every suspicion. What are you going to do tonight? Marcus looked back at the house, at Lily's darkened window. I'm going to talk to my daughter. Really talk to her. And then I'm going to start pulling files from Catherine's foundation. Emma turned to leave, then paused. Mr. Ashford? One more thing. What? The bracelet. You noticed it. Marcus nodded. Catherine gave it to Sarah. 2 weeks before they both disappeared. Said it was for protection, that she wanted Sarah to have something beautiful. Emma touched the silver band on her wrist. I found it in Sarah's room at the group home. It's all I have left of her. The implication hung between them. Why had Catherine given a 15-year-old a bracelet worth thousands of dollars? What kind of protection had she meant? And most importantly, what had Catherine been involved in that required protection? Marcus found Lily still awake, sitting by her window, staring at the stars. She didn't turn when he entered. Didn't acknowledge him at all. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed. Emma told me something tonight. About being lonely. About feeling invisible. Lily remained silent. I realized I've been so focused on keeping you safe that I forgot to ask if you're happy. Marcus's voice cracked. Are you happy, Lily? Finally, his daughter turned. Tears streaked her face. I miss Mom, she whispered. And I know you do too. But you won't talk about her. You won't even say her name anymore. Marcus felt his chest tighten. It hurts too much. It hurts me too. Lily's voice rose. But I don't have anyone to talk to about it because you locked everyone out. Emma was the first person in 3 years who asked me about Mom and actually listened when I answered. I'm listening now. Are you? Lily challenged. Or are you just trying to fix things so we can go back to pretending everything's fine? Marcus had no answer. Because she was right. I want to help find Emma's sister, Lily said suddenly. Absolutely not. You're 8 years old. Mom would want me to help. The words stopped Marcus cold. Lily stood, walking to her dresser. She pulled out a small wooden box Marcus had never seen before. Mom gave me this the morning before she disappeared, Lily said, opening it. Inside was a letter, sealed in an envelope with Lily's name written in Catherine's handwriting. Marcus's breath caught. You never told me about this. She made me promise not to open it unless something happened to her. And to only show you when you were ready to hear the truth. What truth? Lily handed him the envelope. Her hands were shaking. I think you're finally ready, Daddy. Marcus took the letter, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. He opened it. And Catherine's words, written 3 years ago, changed everything he thought he knew. Marcus is holding a letter from his dead wife, written the day she disappeared. Emma has evidence that Catherine and Sarah's disappearances are connected. Lily wants to help find the truth. At this point, Marcus has to choose, keep Lily protected and ignorant, or let her be part of uncovering whatever darkness her mother was involved in. What would you do? Protect your child from painful truths, or let them face reality so they can heal? This decision would define everything that came next. Drop your answer in the comments. Because what Marcus reads in that letter will shatter every assumption he's made for 3 years that Catherine's handwriting hadn't changed. Marcus sat on Lily's bed, his hands trembling as he unfolded the paper. His daughter watched him with eyes too old for 8 years. The letter began simply, My dearest Lily, if you're reading this, then something has happened to me. I pray you never have to open this envelope, but I need you to understand something. Whatever comes next, your father didn't know. He's innocent. I've made choices I can't undo. Choices that put people I love in danger. There are men who will come looking for me, men who won't care about collateral damage. That's why I'm writing this. So you'll know the truth if the worst happens. I'm not who your father thinks I am. Marcus stopped reading. His vision blurred. Keep going, Lily whispered. You need to know. He continued. Before I met your father, I worked for people who operated in shadows. My foundation, the one that helps foster kids, started as something good. But it became a cover for moving money. Dirty money. I laundered funds for powerful people who hurt children, and I convinced myself I was doing it to save the kids who came through my program. I was wrong. 6 months ago, I discovered what the money was really funding. Not just financial crimes. Trafficking. Children being sold like products. And one of those children was Sarah Morrison, a girl I'd been mentoring, a girl who trusted me. I tried to get her out. Tried to expose the entire operation. But they found out. They're coming for me and probably for Sarah too. If I disappear, Marcus will look for me. He'll tear apart every corner of this earth trying to find answers. But he can't know about this, Lily. If he goes after these people, they'll kill him. They'll kill you. The only person who can help is Sarah's sister, Emma. I've left her information with my lawyer in a sealed file. When the time is right, when you're old enough, when Emma finds you, give her this letter. Help her find her sister. And tell your father. Tell him I loved him more than he'll ever know. Tell him I'm sorry I brought darkness into his light. And tell him to let me go. Protect each other. That's all that matters now. All my love, The letter slipped from Marcus's fingers. Everything he'd believed for 3 years, gone. Catherine hadn't been taken. She'd been running. Running from people she'd worked with. People she'd betrayed. And she'd known they were coming. Daddy. Lily's voice seemed far away. Marcus stood abruptly, the room spinning. I need to make a call. He stumbled out of Lily's room, pulling out his phone with shaking hands. Torres answered on the first ring. Ashford. My wife was involved in money laundering. Child trafficking. Marcus could barely get the words out. She wasn't a victim. She was a criminal. Silence on the other end. Torres. Did you hear me? I heard you. Torres's voice was careful. What changed? Marcus told him about the letter. Every devastating word. When he finished, Torres exhaled slowly. That explains why the investigation went nowhere. If Catherine was running from organized criminals, the kind with reach, they would have scrubbed evidence, paid off investigators, made sure no trail led back to them. Sarah Morrison knew, Marcus said. That's why she disappeared. Catherine tried to save her and they both. We don't know they're dead, Torres interrupted. If these people wanted to send a message, there would have been bodies. The fact that Catherine and Sarah vanished without a trace suggests they might have been taken alive. For what purpose? Leverage. Information. Or... Torres paused. Insurance. If Catherine had evidence, if she threatened to expose them, keeping her alive might be the only way to ensure her silence. Marcus felt a spark of something he hadn't felt in years. Not just hope. Rage. Find out who Catherine was working with. I want names, locations, everything. Marcus, if these people are as connected as Catherine's letter suggests. I don't care how connected they are, Marcus cut in. They took my wife. They took a 15-year-old girl. And they've been free for 3 years while I've been chasing ghosts. This is FBI territory. Maybe. The FBI gave up. I won't. Marcus's voice turned to steel. You have 72 hours. Find me something I can use. He hung up before Torres could argue. Emma arrived at Marcus's Manhattan office at 8:47 a.m. 13 minutes early. Marcus noticed that. It spoke to discipline, focus. The kind of traits you developed when survival depended on them. She'd cleaned up. Wearing jeans and a simple jacket, hair pulled back. But her eyes still held that same haunted intensity. You look different, Marcus said. I showered at a shelter. Emma's tone was matter-of-fact. Figured you'd take me more seriously if I didn't smell like the street. Marcus gestured to the chair across from his desk. The office occupied the entire top floor of his building, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, minimalist furniture that cost more than most people's cars. Emma sat, pulling out a worn backpack. She began spreading documents across his desk with systematic precision. This is everything I have on Sarah's disappearance, she said. Phone records. Witness statements. Timeline of her last 48 hours. Marcus studied the documents. Emma's handwriting filled the margins. Notes, connections, theories. 3 years of obsessive investigation condensed into paper. You've been thorough. I had time. Emma pulled out a map with locations marked in red. These are all places connected to Catherine's foundation. I've visited each one, talked to staff, kids who went through the program. And? Most people said Catherine was amazing, generous, dedicated. But a few, the ones who worked closely with her, mentioned a man who visited sometimes. Never gave his name. Always wore expensive suits. They thought he was a donor. Marcus leaned forward. Description? Late 40s. Silver hair. Eastern European accent. Emma met his eyes. One former staff member said Catherine seemed afraid of him. That whenever he came by, she'd send all the kids away. Marcus pulled up his computer, accessing Catherine's foundation files. Did anyone get a photo? No. He was careful. Emma hesitated. But I found this. She pulled out a grainy photograph, clearly taken on a phone from a distance. It showed Catherine in what looked like a parking garage, talking to a man who matched the description. The angle was wrong to see his face clearly, but his body language radiated authority. Where did you get this? A kid named Marcus. Emma caught herself. Different Marcus. He was in the program 3 years ago. Took this photo because he thought it was weird that Catherine was meeting someone alone so late. Marcus enhanced the image on his screen, trying to pull details from the pixels. The man's face remained frustratingly obscured, but something in the background caught his attention. A car. Partial license plate visible. Torres can run this, Marcus said, more to himself than Emma. Who's Torres? Private investigator. The best. Marcus pulled out his phone. I'm sending this to him now. As he typed, Emma continued laying out evidence. Photos of Sarah. Copies of texts. A timeline that tracked Catherine and Sarah's interactions in the weeks before they disappeared. Sarah was scared, Emma said quietly. Her last few messages to me, she said Catherine had gotten her involved in something dangerous. That she wanted out but didn't know how. Marcus looked up. Did she say what? No. Just that Catherine promised she'd fix it. That they'd both be safe soon. Emma's voice cracked. Then she went to that meeting and never came home. Marcus studied the timeline. Catherine had disappeared 48 hours after Sarah. 2 days of knowing what happened to that girl, 2 days of planning her own escape. Or 2 days of being hunted. My wife left me a letter, Marcus said finally. Lily had it. Written the day Catherine disappeared. Emma's eyes widened. What did it say? Marcus told her. Everything. The money laundering. The trafficking. Catherine's realization of what she'd been part of. Her attempt to save Sarah. When he finished, Emma was pale. She tried to help, Emma whispered. Catherine actually tried. It wasn't enough. No. Emma's hands clenched into fists. But it means Sarah might still be alive. If they're using her as leverage against Catherine, then they're both assets. Both valuable. Marcus stood, pacing to the windows. Torres thinks if they wanted them dead, we would have found bodies. So where are they? That's what we're going to find out. Marcus turned back to Emma, seeing her clearly for the first time. Not a homeless girl. Not a threat. A woman who'd spent 3 years living on the streets, never giving up on her sister. She was stronger than most people he knew. I need to tell you something, Marcus said. About Lily. What about her? She wants to help. She's 8 years old and she wants to help find your sister. Marcus shook his head. I can't let her. But she's not going to understand that. Emma was quiet for a moment. When I was 8, my sister was 5. Our mother had just died and we were going into the system. I promised Sarah I'd protect her. That I'd never let anything bad happen to her. She looked at Marcus with those devastating green eyes. I broke that promise. And it's destroyed me every day since. So I understand Lily wanting to help, wanting to do something instead of feeling powerless. Emma paused. But you're right. She's too young. Too vulnerable. Don't let her make the same mistake I did. What mistake? Sacrificing childhood for revenge. The words hung between them. Marcus's phone buzzed. First, I got a hit on the license plate, Torres said without preamble. Registered to a shell company. Took some digging, but I traced it to a man named Viktor Kozlov. Russian national. On Interpol's radar for financial crimes and suspected human trafficking. Marcus put the phone on speaker. Where is he now? That's the problem. He vanished 3 years ago. Same time as your wife. But his associates are still active. I'm sending you a list. Marcus's computer pinged. A file appeared, dozens of names, photos, known locations. These are dangerous people, Marcus, Torres warned. If you're planning what I think you're planning. I'm planning to find my wife, Marcus cut in. Whatever it takes. He hung up. Emma was already studying the file on his computer, her expression hardening as she recognized some of the names. I've seen this man, she said, pointing to a photo. Dmitry Volkov. He used to visit one of the shelters I stayed at, always asking questions about missing kids. I thought he was a social worker. He's Kozlov's lieutenant, Marcus read from the file. Handles logistics and recruitment. Recruitment. Emma's voice turned cold. You mean he finds children to sell? Marcus nodded grimly. Where is he? Marcus pulled up more information. Last known location, Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. Operates out of a nightclub called the Red Room. I'm going. No. Marcus closed the laptop. This isn't amateur hour. We need professionals. I've been investigating this for 3 years. Emma stood abruptly. I've lived on the streets, talked to trafficked kids, followed leads the police ignored. Don't tell me I'm not qualified. You're emotionally invested. And you're not. Emma challenged. Your wife is missing. You expect me to believe you'll stay rational? She was right. They were both too close to this. Then we do it together, Marcus said. We go in with a plan, with backup, with leverage. Not guns blazing. What kind of plan? Marcus thought for a moment. Then something occurred to him. Kozlov's operation needed Catherine because she had access to the legitimate financial system. She could move money without raising flags. He pulled up Catherine's foundation accounts. If we can trace where the money went, we can find the operation. You think they're still using her accounts? I think if she's alive, they're forcing her to keep cleaning their money. Marcus opened a new window. And if I'm right, there should be recent transactions. He logged into the Foundation's financial records. What he found made his blood run cold. Transfers. Dozens of them. Continuing right up to last week. Someone was still moving money through Catherine's accounts. Which meant someone had Catherine's access credentials. Which meant, she's alive, Emma breathed. Catherine's alive and they're forcing her to work for them. Marcus felt his world tilt again. Hope and horror warring in his chest. We need to trace these transactions, he said. Find out where the money ends up. That could take weeks. Then we start now. While Marcus and Emma dove into financial records, Lily made a decision of her own. She'd heard everything through the office door. Every word about her mother's crimes, about Sarah Morrison, about the men who'd taken them. And she'd realized something her father hadn't. She had information he needed. Before her mother disappeared, Catherine had taken Lily to the Foundation several times. Showed her the office, introduced her to kids in the program. And once, just once, Lily had seen Catherine meet with a man who'd scared her. Silver hair. Expensive suit. A voice that sounded like ice. Catherine had told Lily to wait in another room. But Lily had peeked through a crack in the door. Watched her mother hand the man a folder filled with papers. Watched him count money on Catherine's desk. Even at 5 years old, Lily had known something was wrong. And she'd remembered something else. The man had left a business card. Catherine had thrown it away, but Lily, curious, scared, had dug it out of the trash later. She'd kept it. Hidden it in her dollhouse for 3 years, not understanding why it felt important. Now she understood. Lily pulled the card from its hiding spot. The edges were worn, the text faded, but still legible. Victor Kozlov, International Import, Export. And a phone number. Lily stared at the card, her heart pounding. Should she give it to her father? Should she tell him? That was crazy. She was 8 years old. She couldn't. But Emma had been brave. Emma had spent years looking for her sister. And Lily's mother had tried to save Sarah even though it cost her everything. Lily thought about what her mother would want her to do. Then she pulled out her tablet and started researching. Marcus and Emma worked through the night, following digital breadcrumbs through a maze of shell companies and offshore accounts. Torres joined them at midnight, bringing coffee and a team of forensic accountants. By 3 a.m., they traced Catherine's transfers to a network of businesses across 3 countries. This is sophisticated, one of the accountants said. Whoever designed this system knew exactly how to exploit regulatory gaps. Money flows through legitimate businesses, gets split into smaller transactions, then reconsolidates overseas. Where does it end? Marcus asked. The accountant pulled up a map with red dots marking locations. Multiple endpoints. But the largest concentration is here. He zoomed in on Brighton Beach. The same neighborhood where Dmitry Volkov operated. They're keeping everything local, Emma said. Using Catherine to move the money, but the actual operation is right here in New York. Which means Catherine might be here too, Marcus added. Torres leaned back. If we're right about this, if they're holding Catherine and Sarah in New York, we need to move carefully. One wrong step and they could vanish. Or worse. Then we don't give them time to react, Marcus said. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling in a favor. What kind of favor? I provide cybersecurity for half the law enforcement agencies in this country. Marcus dialed. That includes the FBI's field office in New York. Emma grabbed his arm. Wait, if the FBI gets involved, they'll want credit for the bust. I know. Marcus met her eyes. But they'll also have the resources to raid multiple locations simultaneously. To rescue hostages safely. This is bigger than us now. Emma held his gaze for a long moment. Then she nodded. Marcus made the call. Here's the thing. Marcus had two choices at this point. Option 1. Keep working privately with Emma and Torres, maintain control, but risk Catherine and Sarah's lives if something goes wrong. Option 2. Bring in the FBI, lose control of the investigation, but potentially save lives through coordinated action. What would you have done? Would you trust the same law enforcement that gave up on your wife 3 years ago? Or would you take the risk of going it alone? Think about it. Because Marcus's choice will determine whether Catherine and Sarah come home alive. Drop your answer in the comments. The FBI raid was scheduled for 6 a.m. 3 locations simultaneously, the Red Room nightclub, a warehouse in Queens, and a residential building in Brighton Beach. Marcus wasn't allowed to participate. Neither was Emma. They were told to wait at FBI headquarters while professionals handled the operation. Marcus had agreed to those terms. He'd lied. At 5:30 a.m., Marcus and Emma sat in a car 2 blocks from the Red Room. They'd followed Torres's advice. Observe only, don't engage, call for backup if anything goes wrong. This is insane, Emma muttered. We should be there. Marcus pointed to the nightclub entrance. A black SUV had pulled up, engine running. 2 men emerged, hurrying inside. One of them matched Dmitry Volkov's photo. They're evacuating, Emma said. Someone tipped them off. Marcus's jaw clenched. The FBI has a leak. They watched as more men emerged from the club, carrying boxes, moving with urgent efficiency. The operation was being dismantled before their eyes. We have to do something, Emma said. Like what? Storm the building? Call Torres. Call the FBI. Call someone. Marcus was already dialing when he saw it. A woman being escorted from a side door. Hands bound. Head down. But even from a distance, even after 3 years, he recognized her walk. Catherine. His wife was alive. And they were moving her. Marcus, Emma started. I see her. His voice came out strangled. The men pushed Catherine into a van. Another woman was brought out moments later, younger, terrified, fighting against her captors. Sarah. Emma breathed. Everything happened in slow motion. The van's doors closing. The convoy starting to move. Marcus's hand on the car door handle. Emma grabbed his arm. Don't. They'll kill you. They're getting away. Then we follow them. Emma's voice was steel. We stay back, we track where they're going, and we call in the cavalry. But we don't engage. Not yet. Marcus wanted to argue. Wanted to ram their car into that convoy, wanted to tear apart every person who'd kept his wife prisoner for 3 years. But Emma was right. He started the car and followed at a distance. The convoy headed east, toward Long Island. Away from the FBI raid sites. Away from help. Marcus called Torres. They've got Catherine and Sarah. Moving east on the expressway. Black van, no plates visible. Following at distance. Marcus, do not engage, Torres said urgently. I'm alerting FBI now. Stay on the line. But Marcus wasn't listening. He was watching the van ahead, memorizing every turn, every movement. Where are they going? Emma wondered aloud. Marcus pulled up a map on his dashboard screen, tracking their route. This direction, there's nothing out here except. He stopped. Except what? Emma demanded. Marcus felt ice flood his veins. Except one of Ashford Industries' old data centers. Decommissioned 5 years ago. Completely off-grid. Why would they? Because I own it. Marcus accelerated. Because it's the one place no one would think to look. My own property. They'd been hiding Catherine in his building all along. The audacity. The cruelty. The perfect camouflage. Marcus's phone buzzed. FBI is 15 minutes out. Do not approach the building. Understood, Marcus lied again. He turned to Emma. When we get there, you stay in the car. Call for backup. Guide them in. What are you going to do? Marcus pulled a handgun from the glove compartment. Emma's eyes widened. I'm going to get my wife back. Marcus, this is suicide. I've spent 3 years believing she was dead. I'm not losing her again. He checked the gun's magazine. Fully loaded. He'd bought it after Catherine disappeared, telling himself it was for protection. Now he was grateful for his paranoia. I'm coming with you, Emma said. No. She's my sister. And if something happens to both of us, who brings the FBI to the right location? Marcus's voice softened. Someone needs to survive this. To make sure they're held accountable. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. The convoy pulled off the highway, heading toward an industrial area Marcus knew well. His old data center loomed ahead, a concrete fortress designed to withstand hurricanes and terrorist attacks. The perfect prison. Marcus parked a quarter-mile away, hidden behind an abandoned building. 15 minutes, he said to Emma. If I'm not back in 15 minutes, or if you hear gunshots, you call Torres and get out of here. Marcus, promise me. I promise. He started to exit the car, then stopped. Looked back at Emma. Thank you, he said. For not giving up on Sarah. For making me see what I'd become. Bring them home, Emma whispered. Marcus nodded. Then he stepped into the dawn, walking toward the building that held everyone he'd lost. The data center had one main entrance and 3 emergency exits. Marcus knew every inch of this building. He'd designed its security systems himself, which meant he also knew the blind spots. He approached from the east side, where a maintenance access tunnel led underground. The lock had been changed, but Marcus had come prepared. He picked it in 43 seconds, a skill he'd learned as a teenager breaking into the group home's kitchen when he was starving. Funny how old survival skills never really left you. Inside, the tunnel was dark and damp. Marcus moved silently, his gun raised, his heart hammering so hard he thought they'd hear it through the walls. The tunnel opened into the building's basement. Voices echoed from above. Russian. Angry. Arguing about something. Marcus crept up the concrete stairs, emerging into what had once been the main server room. The equipment was gone, but the space remained, a vast empty cavern with exposed pipes and shadows. He heard her before he saw her. Catherine's voice. Weak but defiant. I've done everything you asked. Let the girl go. Your cooperation has been noted. A man's voice, heavily accented. Viktor Kozlov. But you know too much. You both do. Marcus peered around a corner. They were in the center of the room, Viktor Kozlov, 3 armed men, and 2 women bound to chairs. Catherine looked older. Thinner. But alive. So beautifully, impossibly alive. Beside her, a teenage girl with Emma's green eyes. Sarah. Please, Catherine begged. She's just a kid. She doesn't know anything. She knows enough. Victor checked his watch. The FBI is raiding our operations as we speak. Someone talked. And since you're the only one with enough information to coordinate such an attack. He pulled out a gun. Marcus didn't think. Didn't plan. Just acted. Step away from them. His voice echoed through the empty space. 7 faces turned toward him. Victor smiled. Mr. Ashford. We've been expecting you. That's when Marcus realized his mistake. This wasn't a rescue. It was a trap. And he'd walked right into it. We're at the midpoint of this incredible story. Marcus is facing the man who destroyed his life. Catherine and Sarah are moments from execution. And Emma is waiting outside with backup 15 minutes away. If you're still here, I genuinely appreciate you. Over an hour of this story, and you've stuck with it through every twist and revelation. What's kept you engaged so far? Is it Marcus's journey from paranoid billionaire to desperate husband? Emma's 3-year quest for justice? The mystery of what really happened to Catherine and Sarah? Let me know in the comments. Your feedback means everything. Because what happens next, in the second half of this story, will determine whether this family survives or whether Viktor Kozlov wins forever. And I promise you, The answers will be worth the wait. Viktor Kozlov's smile never reached his eyes. Did you really think we didn't know you were following us, Mr. Ashford? He gestured casually with his gun. We've been monitoring you since that homeless girl first approached your property. Marcus kept his weapon trained on Viktor, but his mind raced. They'd been watching him. Watching Emma. This entire time. How long? Marcus asked. Long enough. Viktor stepped closer to Catherine, pressing his gun to her temple. Long enough to know you'd bring the FBI. Long enough to prepare contingencies. Catherine's eyes met Marcus's. 3 years of silence between them, and now. I'm sorry, she mouthed. Drop the gun, Mr. Ashford, or I kill your wife. Then the girl. Then you. Marcus's finger tightened on the trigger. He had the shot. Could take Viktor down before? Sarah screamed. One of Viktor's men had moved behind her chair, knife pressed to her throat. I said drop it, Viktor repeated. Marcus lowered his weapon. Placed it on the ground. Raised his hands. Good. Now kick it away. Marcus complied, watching his only advantage slide across concrete. Viktor laughed. 3 years I kept your wife alive, Mr. Ashford. 3 years of using her skills, her access, her legitimacy. And you never suspected she was right under your nose. This building, Marcus said, understanding flooding through him. You've been here the entire time. A brilliant hiding spot, no? Your own decommissioned facility. You paid the utilities yourself through automated systems. Never visited. Never checked. Viktor shook his head. The arrogance of rich men. You see what you want to see. Catherine spoke, her voice hoarse. Marcus, don't. Viktor struck her across the face. Quiet. Red fury flooded Marcus's vision. But he held still. Waited. You're wondering why I'm telling you this, Viktor continued. Why explain when I could simply shoot you? Because I want you to understand something, Mr. Ashford. He circled Marcus like a predator. You think you're the hero of this story. The grieving husband. The protective father. But you're just another rich fool who built empires while ignoring the suffering that funded them. I didn't. Your cybersecurity systems? They protect banks, corporations, governments. You know what they also protect? Viktor's voice hardened. Shell companies. Money launderers. People like me. Your technology made our operations possible. The words hit like physical blows. You're lying, Marcus said. Am I? Check your client list sometime. See how many companies I own through proxies. See how much money I paid Ashford Industries for the privilege of secure transactions. Viktor pulled out his phone, showing Marcus a document. A contract. Signed 3 years ago. By Catherine. Your wife knew, Viktor said. She figured it out 6 months before she tried her pathetic rebellion. Realized her foundation was laundering my money. Realized her husband's company was protecting my operations. Marcus looked at Catherine. Saw the truth in her eyes. I tried to tell you, she whispered. But you were always working. Always building. Always too busy to see what was happening in your own life. The accusation stung because it was true. So what now? Marcus asked Viktor. You kill us all? The FBI is already raiding your operations. You've lost. Lost. Viktor laughed. I've lost some assets. Some locations. But I have something more valuable. He gestured to Catherine and Sarah. Leverage. Your wife has proof of every transaction, every client, every dirty secret. Encrypted files we've been trying to access for 3 years. And now, thanks to you, I have the one person who can retrieve them. I don't have. Not you. Viktor's smile turned cruel. Your daughter. Marcus's blood turned to ice. What? Little Lily. 8 years old. Curious. Viktor pulled up an image on his phone. Lily. At the estate. Taken just hours ago. No. Catherine gave her the encryption key before she disappeared. Probably thought the girl was too young to understand, too young to be targeted. Viktor pocketed his phone. She was wrong. Marcus lunged. Got 3 steps before something hard cracked against his skull. The world tilted. He hit the ground, vision swimming. Through the haze, he heard Victor speaking into a phone. "Bring the girl. We're ready to extract the files." Outside, Emma watched the minutes tick past. 12 minutes since Marcus entered the building. No gunshots. No signals. Something was wrong. She called Torres. "It's been too long. Where's the FBI?" 8 minutes out. "Sit tight." "I can't. Something's wrong." "Emma, do not go in there." She hung up. Emma had survived 3 years on the streets by trusting her instincts. And every instinct screamed that Marcus was in trouble. She got out of the car, approaching the building from the south side. Found a window. Peered inside. What she saw made her breath stop. Marcus on the ground. Blood on his temple. Victor standing over him with a gun. And Catherine and Sarah, still bound, watching helplessly. Emma's mind raced. She was unarmed. Outnumbered. One woman against trained killers. But she'd also spent 3 years becoming invisible. Learning to move through spaces without being seen. Surviving by being smarter, faster, more desperate than everyone around her. She found the maintenance tunnel Marcus must have used. Descended into darkness. Time to see if desperation was enough. While Emma infiltrated the building, Lily was making moves of her own. She'd overheard enough through her father's office door to understand the danger. Understood that Victor Kozlov was the man from her mother's business card. So she'd done something crazy. She'd called him. Used the number from that old business card. Disguised her voice to sound older. Claimed she had information about Catherine Ashford's encrypted files. Victor had sent men to collect her. Lily had gone willingly. Now she sat in the back of an SUV, 2 armed guards flanking her, driving toward the data center. She clutched her tablet against her chest, heart hammering. The tablet that contained nothing. No files. No encryption keys. Nothing but a desperate 8-year-old's bluff. But Lily had learned something from her father. Sometimes the appearance of power was enough. She'd also learned something from Emma. Sometimes you had to risk everything for the people you loved. "We're here," one of the guards said. The SUV pulled up to the data center. Lily was escorted inside, through corridors she didn't recognize, into a vast empty room. And there he was. Her father. On the ground. Bleeding. "Daddy!" Lily screamed. Marcus's head jerked up. "So?" Victor grabbed Lily's arm, yanking her forward. "The encryption key. Now." Lily looked at her father. At her mother, bound and terrified. At a teenage girl who must be Sarah. "Let them go first," Lily said, her voice shaking but determined. Victor laughed. "You're in no position to negotiate, child." "Yes, I am." Lily held up her tablet. "You can't access Mom's files without the key. And the key is biometric. Requires my thumbprint. You shoot me, you get nothing." She was lying. There was no encryption key. But Lily had watched enough movies, read enough books, heard enough conversations through her father's office door to sound convincing. Victor studied her. "Smart girl. Just like your mother." "Lily, don't give him anything," Catherine called out. "Whatever he promises." "Shut up." Victor's gun swung toward Catherine. "Wait." Lily shouted. "I'll do it. Just don't hurt them anymore." Marcus tried to stand. A guard kicked him back down. "The files," Victor demanded, shoving Lily toward a laptop set up on a makeshift desk. "Access them. Now." Lily approached the computer, her mind racing. She had maybe 30 seconds before Victor realized she was bluffing. 30 seconds to do something. She pretended to input commands, buying time. That's when the lights went out. Emma had found the building's electrical panel. Had waited for the perfect moment. And when she'd seen Lily being threatened, she'd acted. Darkness flooded the data center. Shouts erupted. Gunfire flashed. Wild shots into emptiness. Emma moved through the chaos like a ghost. She'd lived in darkness for 3 years. This was her element. She reached Catherine first, cutting the ropes with a knife she'd found in the maintenance tunnel. "Can you run?" "Yes, Sarah. I'll get her. Get to Marcus." Emma moved to Sarah's chair. "More ropes. More precious seconds." The girl was shaking. "Your sister sent me," Emma whispered. We're getting you out. Emma? Sarah's voice broke. You found me. Always, baby. I promised. Emma cut the last rope. Can you move? I think so. Gunfire continued. Victor's men shooting at shadows. They were disorganized, panicked. Emma guided Sarah toward where she'd last seen Marcus. Found him in the darkness, Catherine helping him stand. Lily, Marcus gasped. Where's Lily? A flashlight beam cut through the darkness. Victor, holding Lily against his chest, gun to her head. Enough! Victor's voice echoed. Turn on the emergency lights or I shoot the girl. Silence. Then Catherine's voice, steady and cold. Do it and you get nothing. No files. No leverage. Just a murder charge when the FBI arrives. The FBI won't arrive in time to save her. Actually, a new voice called from the entrance. We're already here. Emergency lights flickered on. The room flooded with FBI agents, weapons drawn, red dots dancing across Victor's chest. Release the child, the lead agent commanded. Hands where we can see them. Victor's eyes darted wildly, calculating. His men were already dropping their weapons, raising their hands. He was surrounded. Outgunned. Finished. But he still had Lily. You shoot me, she dies, Victor said. And then you die, Catherine replied. She'd picked up Marcus's dropped gun, pointing it at Victor with steady hands. You have one chance to walk out of here alive. Go. The standoff stretched for an eternity. Then Lily bit down hard on Victor's hand. He yelped. His grip loosened for just a moment. Marcus lunged. Everything happened at once. Marcus tackled Victor. Lily rolled free. FBI agents swarmed forward. Gunshots. Someone screamed. When the chaos cleared, Victor was on the ground, FBI agents restraining him. His men were in custody. And Marcus was holding Lily, checking her for injuries, his hands shaking. Are you hurt? Did he? I'm okay, Daddy. Lily hugged him fiercely. I'm okay. Catherine approached slowly. 3 years of absence between them. 3 years of lies and secrets and survival. Marcus looked up at his wife. Really looked at her. Hi, Catherine said softly. Hi. And then she was there, her arms around both of them, the three of them holding each other like they'd never let go. Across the room, Emma had found Sarah. The sisters clung to each other, both crying, 3 years of separation finally over. You came for me, Sarah sobbed. You never stopped. Never, Emma whispered. Not for one day. Not for 1 second. The FBI lead agent approached Marcus. Mr. Ashford, we need statements from everyone. And your wife will need to be debriefed. Later, Marcus said firmly. Right now, my family needs medical attention. Sir. I said later. Marcus stood, Lily in his arms, Catherine at his side. Arrest me if you have to. But my daughter and wife come first. The agent looked at Catherine, beaten, exhausted, but finally free. At Sarah, traumatized from 3 years of captivity. At Lily, 8 years old and shaking from shock. Tomorrow morning, he said finally. 9 a.m. Don't make me regret this. Marcus nodded. As they walked out of that building, Marcus, Catherine, Lily, Emma, and Sarah, the morning sun was rising over Long Island. Dawn after 3 years of darkness. The next 72 hours were a blur of doctors, lawyers, FBI interviews, and media circuses. Catherine's testimony exposed a trafficking network spanning 12 countries. 23 arrests were made. 17 children were rescued. Sarah's account corroborated everything. She'd been held in 3 different locations over 3 years, forced to work alongside other trafficked kids, always moved before authorities could find them. Emma's 3-year investigation provided crucial details the FBI had missed. Her refusal to give up had saved lives. Marcus's company faced scrutiny. Congressional hearings were scheduled. Lawsuits filed. His stock price dropped 40% in 2 days. He didn't care. On the 4th day after the rescue, Marcus found Catherine sitting alone in their bedroom at the Hamptons estate. She was staring out at the ocean, wearing clothes that no longer fit quite right. Can't sleep? Marcus asked. I'm not used to quiet anymore. Catherine's voice was distant. 3 years of constant noise. Guards. Other prisoners. Never really alone. Marcus sat beside her. Not touching. Just present. The FBI wants me to testify, Catherine said. Public trial. My face on every news outlet. Everyone will know what I did. You were trying to save Sarah? I was laundering money for monsters for years before that. Catherine finally looked at him. I told myself I was doing it to save kids through the foundation. But really? I was scared. Scared of what they'd do if I refused. Scared of losing everything. You lost it anyway. Yes. A tear rolled down her cheek. And I gained perspective I never wanted. 3 years of watching what my cowardice enabled. Children suffering because I chose comfort over courage. Marcus took her hand. You can't undo the past. No. But I can face it. Catherine squeezed his fingers. The trial, the testimony, the public humiliation, I deserve all of it. The kids you saved don't think so. Sarah doesn't think so. Sarah's kind. She's better than I deserve. Maybe. Marcus turned to face her fully. But here's what I know. You spent 3 years being tortured, threatened, forced to continue the very work you tried to stop. And you never gave them the encryption key. Never gave them full access to your files. You protected evidence that will put these people away forever. Catherine was silent. That took courage, Marcus continued. More courage than I had. I spent 3 years wallowing in self-pity, turning my daughter into a prisoner, becoming the very thing I hated. You were grieving. I was coward. Marcus's voice cracked. I built walls instead of seeking truth. I chose to believe the easy story, that you were taken, that I was the victim, rather than asking hard questions. You couldn't have known. I could have looked harder. Tried harder. Trusted the people trying to help instead of pushing them away. Marcus thought of Emma, living on the streets for 3 years while he lived in luxury. We both made choices we regret. Catherine leaned against him. So what now? Now we do better. Marcus wrapped his arm around her. We testify. We face consequences. We help those kids rebuild their lives. And we figure out how to be a family again. Is that even possible? After everything? I don't know. Marcus was honest. But I think it's worth trying. They sat in silence, watching the sun rise over the Atlantic. Emma and Sarah moved into a small apartment in Queens. The FBI had offered protective custody, but Emma refused. We've been prisoners long enough, she told the agents. Time to build a real life. The transition wasn't easy. Sarah had nightmares. Panic attacks. Triggers everywhere. Emma understood. She'd been through trauma too, different, but just as real. 3 years of uncertainty, of living rough, of never knowing if she'd see her sister again. They started therapy together. Found a counselor who specialized in trafficking survivors. Marcus paid for everything. The apartment, the therapy, the education Sarah had missed, the fresh start Emma deserved. When Emma tried to refuse, he'd said simply, "You saved my daughter. You saved my wife. You saved me from becoming someone I couldn't recognize. This isn't charity. It's gratitude." Emma had accepted. 2 months after the rescue, Sarah enrolled in a high school for students with interrupted educations. She was behind in every subject, but determined. "I want to be like Catherine," Sarah told Emma one night. "Help kids like me. But do it right this time." "You will," Emma assured her. "You're already braver than most people will ever be." Emma found work with a nonprofit that helped homeless youth. Her 3 years on the streets gave her credibility, perspective that professional social workers sometimes lacked. She was good at it. Really good. One evening, Marcus visited their apartment. Brought dinner from the Italian place Emma had mentioned liking. "You didn't have to do this," Emma said. "I wanted to." Marcus set down the food. "How's Sarah adjusting?" "Getting better. Still struggles with crowds, enclosed spaces. But she's fighting. Like her sister." Emma smiled. "We both learned that from someone else. Someone who never stopped fighting even when everyone said to give up." They ate together, talking about small things. Sarah's progress in school. Catherine's upcoming testimony. Lily's therapy sessions. She asks about you, Marcus said. Lily wants to know when you're coming back to teach her about the stars. Does she? Yeah. Marcus paused. Would you? Come back, not as an intruder. As a guest. As a friend. Emma considered. You're not worried I'll be a bad influence? Homeless girl with a criminal record. The charges were dropped. And you're not that girl anymore. Marcus met her eyes. You're the woman who saved my family. The woman who refused to give up when everyone else did. I'd be honored to have you in our lives. Something passed between them. Not romance, they'd been through too much for that. But understanding. Respect. I'll come, Emma said. For Lily. And for Catherine. She'll need support when the trial starts. She will. Marcus stood to leave, then turned back. Emma? Thank you. For everything. Thank you for believing me when no one else would. After he left, Sarah emerged from her bedroom. He's nice. Yeah, Emma agreed. He is. Do you think? Sarah hesitated. Do you think we'll ever feel normal again? Emma pulled her sister close. I think we'll feel better. Different but better. And that's enough. Marcus stood before the congressional committee investigating his company's role in facilitating criminal operations. The hearing room was packed. Cameras everywhere. Reporters hungry for blood. Marcus wore a simple suit. No designer labels. No power plays. Just a man facing consequences. Mr. Ashford, the committee chair began, your company's technology protected shell corporations involved in human trafficking. What do you have to say? Marcus didn't deflect. Didn't make excuses. I failed, he said simply. I built systems without considering how they could be misused. I prioritized profit over ethics. And children suffered because of my negligence. Murmurs through the gallery. That said, Marcus continued, I'm not here to beg forgiveness. I'm here to present a solution. He pulled out a document. Over 300 pages. This is a new protocol for financial technology companies. Mandatory reporting requirements. AI systems to flag suspicious transactions. Third-party audits. Real accountability. The committee members leaned forward. I'm implementing this across Ashford Industries immediately. And I'm making it open source, free for any company to adopt. Marcus paused. I'm also donating $50 million to organizations that combat human trafficking. Not as penance. As responsibility. You think money fixes this? One senator challenged. No, Marcus replied. But it's a start. Money, reform, and commitment to never looking away from hard truths again. The hearing continued for 6 hours. Marcus answered every question honestly, even when it made him look bad. When it was over, his lawyer pulled him aside. That was either brilliant or career suicide. I don't care which, Marcus said. It was true. The next day, Catherine testified. She was calm, composed, devastating. She named names. Exposed networks. Provided evidence that sent shockwaves through financial markets. And she admitted her own guilt. Every terrible choice. Every rationalization. Every moment she'd chosen self-preservation over doing right. I was a coward, she told the committee. I let fear make me complicit in atrocities. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to atone for that. The prosecution offered her immunity in exchange for testimony. Catherine refused. I'll testify, she said. But I won't hide behind immunity. Let a jury decide if I deserve punishment. Her lawyer thought she was insane. Marcus understood completely. Some things mattered more than freedom. Things like integrity. Like showing her daughter that facing consequences was part of redemption. 8 months after the rescue, the Ashford family gathered for Lily's 9th birthday. It was small. Intimate. Just family and the people who'd become family through trauma. Emma and Sarah were there. Torres, the investigator who'd believed them. A few FBI agents who'd conducted the raid. Catherine's therapist, who'd helped her process 3 years of captivity. No fancy party. No hired entertainment. Just people who mattered, eating cake in the Hamptons garden where this all began. Lily blew out her candles. Made a wish. What did you wish for, sweetheart? Marcus asked. Can't tell or it won't come true, Lily said seriously. Then she grinned. But it might involve Emma teaching me more constellations. Deal, Emma laughed. Later, as the sun set, Marcus found himself standing with Catherine at the edge of the property. The same spot where Emma had first appeared. We've changed, Catherine said quietly. Yes. Are you okay with who we've become? Marcus considered. He'd lost billions in stock value. His reputation was tarnished. Congressional oversight would govern his company for years. But his daughter laughed freely now. His wife was alive. His family was healing. I'm more than okay, Marcus said. I'm grateful. Catherine took his hand. I love you. I know I don't deserve. Stop. Marcus turned to face her. We both made mistakes. We're both trying to do better. That's all anyone can ask. Is it enough? For me? Yes. Marcus kissed her forehead. We have the rest of our lives to prove we've changed. To show Lily that transformation is possible. That people can face their worst selves and choose to evolve. No pressure, Catherine joked weakly. All the pressure, Marcus replied. But we'll carry it together. Behind them, Lily's laughter rang out as Sarah taught her a card game. Emma sat nearby, watching her sister with tears in her eyes. This was family now. Broken, rebuilt, stronger for the cracks. At this point, Marcus has transformed from a paranoid billionaire who locked everyone out into a man who faces truth no matter the cost. Catherine went from coward to someone willing to accept full consequences for her crimes. Emma evolved from a desperate homeless girl to a woman who saves others. And Lily learned that strength isn't about walls, it's about vulnerability. Here's my question for you. Do you think people can truly change? Or does our core nature stay the same, just dressed differently? Because what happens in the final act will test whether their transformations were real or just temporary survival mechanisms. Think about it. Drop your answer in the comments. Because the story isn't over. Not yet. The trial is coming. And the verdict will determine not just legal consequences, but whether this family's second chance is genuine or doomed to fail. 14 months after the rescue, Catherine Ashford's trial began. United States versus Catherine Hayes Ashford. Charges: conspiracy to commit money laundering, accessory to human trafficking, obstruction of justice. Maximum sentence: 45 years. The courtroom was packed. Media filled the gallery. Victims' families came to witness justice. And Marcus sat in the front row, Lily beside him, holding his hand. Catherine walked in wearing a simple navy suit. No jewelry except her wedding ring. Hair pulled back. Face calm. She looked nothing like the socialite who'd once graced charity galas. She looked like a woman who'd made peace with consequences. The prosecution was brutal. They presented evidence of Catherine's involvement spanning 4 years. Financial records. Communications. Testimony from other conspirators who'd taken plea deals. They painted her as a calculating criminal who'd used philanthropy as a cover. Catherine didn't dispute any of it. When her attorney tried to introduce mitigating circumstances, the threats, the coercion, the 3 years of captivity, Catherine stopped him. Let them present the facts, she said quietly. I did what they say I did. The jury deserves truth, not excuses. Her lawyer looked like he might have a heart attack. But Catherine was done hiding. On the 5th day of trial, the prosecution called their star witness, Viktor Kozlov. He'd taken a deal. 30 years instead of life in exchange for testimony against his co-conspirators. Catherine was his ticket to a slightly less horrible future. Viktor took the stand wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. Even imprisoned, he carried himself with arrogance. Ms. Ashford was essential to our operation, he testified. She had access, legitimacy, and skills we needed. Without her, we couldn't have moved the volume of funds necessary to sustain our business. Business, the prosecutor repeated. You mean trafficking children? Among other ventures, yes. The gallery murmured. The judge called for order. Did Ms. Ashford know what your organization did? The prosecutor asked. Eventually. Victor smiled. At first, she was willfully ignorant. Preferred not to ask questions. But when she found out, she tried to stop us. This wasn't helping the prosecution's case. The lawyer frowned. Mr. Kozlov, did Ms. Ashford participate willingly in money laundering? For 4 years, yes. Then she got a conscience. Victor's voice dripped contempt. Threatened to expose everything. So we gave her a choice, continue working for us or watch her family die. The prosecutor tried to redirect. But she did continue working. Under duress, Victor interrupted. For 3 years we held her prisoner. Forced her compliance. She was quite difficult actually. Refused to give us full access to her files. Maintained leverage even while captive. Marcus watched the prosecutor's face turn red. Victor was supposed to bury Catherine, not defend her. No further questions, the prosecutor said curtly. Catherine's attorney stood. Mr. Kozlov, during the 3 years you held Ms. Ashford captive, did she ever voluntarily assist your operations? No. Victor shrugged. We had to threaten violence daily. She was quite the nuisance. Did she attempt escape? Twice. Both times she nearly succeeded. And the evidence that eventually led to your arrest, who preserved that? She did. Victor actually smiled at Catherine. Clever woman. Kept encrypted files documenting everything. Insurance policy we couldn't crack. The testimony continued. But the damage was done to the prosecution's narrative. Catherine wasn't just a criminal. She was a survivor who'd fought back. On day 8, the defense called their first witness, Sarah Morrison. Sarah walked to the stand with quiet dignity. 19 now. Studying social work at NYU. Hair cut short. Eyes clear. She was sworn in, and Catherine's attorney approached. Ms. Morrison, can you tell the court how you met Catherine Ashford? She ran a mentorship program for foster kids. I was 15, about to age out of the system. She helped me apply for emancipation, found me a job, gave me hope. What happened next? Sarah's voice remained steady. I discovered Catherine was involved with bad people. Money laundering. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She cried. Said she'd made terrible mistakes and was trying to find a way out. What did you do? I told her I wanted to help. To expose them. Sarah paused. Catherine said no. Said it was too dangerous. But I insisted. I was young and stupid and thought I could make a difference. That's when you were taken. Yes. They grabbed me before I could testify to police. And Catherine, Sarah's voice cracked. Catherine tried to trade herself for me. Told them she'd continue working if they let me go. The gallery was silent. They refused, Sarah continued. Kept us both. But Catherine protected me. When the guards got violent, she'd take the punishment instead. When food was scarce, she'd give me hers. For 3 years, she was more of a mother than I'd ever had. Catherine was crying silently at the defense table. Ms. Morrison, the attorney said gently, do you believe Catherine Ashford is guilty of the crimes charged? Technically? Yes. Sarah looked directly at the jury. But I also believe she paid for those crimes in ways a prison sentence can't capture. And I believe she deserves a chance to continue the work she started, helping kids like me. The prosecution declined to cross-examine. Next witness, Emma Chase. Emma took the stand wearing professional clothes, hair neat, bearing confident. Nothing like the homeless girl who'd first appeared in Marcus's garden. Miss Chase, what's your relationship to the defendant? She tried to save my sister. And by doing so, she gave me a purpose that kept me alive for 3 years. Emma described her investigation. The years on the streets. The refusal to give up. Catherine's foundation gave me Sarah's last known whereabouts, Emma said. Files that Catherine had hidden, knowing someone would eventually look. She left breadcrumbs for me to follow. Why would she do that? Because she knew she might not survive. But she wanted someone to find Sarah. To finish what she started. The testimony was devastating. Powerful. Human. When Emma stepped down, she walked past Catherine and stopped. Thank you, Emma said quietly, for never giving up on her. Catherine just nodded, unable to speak. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Marcus barely slept. Catherine remained calm, almost serene. She'd made peace with whatever came next. On the morning of day 4, the jury returned. On the count of conspiracy to commit money laundering, how do you find? Guilty. The gallery stirred. Marcus gripped Lily's hand. On the count of accessory to human trafficking, how do you find? Not guilty. Guess. The prosecution looked stunned. On the count of obstruction of justice, how do you find? Not guilty. Catherine closed her eyes. Relief washed over her face. The judge addressed the jury. You found the defendant guilty of money laundering but not guilty of trafficking or obstruction. Can you explain this verdict? The jury foreman stood. Your Honor, we believe Ms. Ashford committed financial crimes. But we also believe her subsequent actions, attempting to stop the trafficking, preserving evidence, protecting victims, demonstrate she was ultimately working against the criminal enterprise, not for it. The judge nodded. The court thanks you for your service. Sentencing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Catherine stopped on the steps, Marcus beside her. Ms. Ashford, do you have a statement? Catherine faced the cameras. I'm grateful to the jury for seeing the complexity of this situation. But I want to be clear, I'm guilty. Not just legally, but morally. I made choices that enabled evil. And no verdict changes that. What about the not guilty verdicts? I'm grateful. But gratitude doesn't erase responsibility. Catherine's voice was firm. I'll spend the rest of my life working to repair the damage I caused. Whether that's from inside prison or outside doesn't change my commitment. Do you have a message for your victims? Only this, I'm sorry. Deeply, truly sorry. And I know sorry isn't enough. But it's where I have to start. She walked away, ignoring the shouted questions. 2 weeks later, the judge delivered Catherine's sentence. The courtroom was packed again. Victims present. Supporters present. The world watching. Ms. Ashford, the judge began, I've reviewed all evidence, all testimony, all circumstances. This is an unusual case. You committed serious crimes. But you also risked everything to stop greater crimes. You preserved evidence that rescued 17 children and convicted 37 traffickers. You endured 3 years of captivity rather than fully cooperate with your captors. Catherine stood straight, accepting whatever came. The prosecution recommends 15 years. The defense recommends probation with community service. The judge paused. I'm sentencing you to 5 years in federal prison, with 3 years suspended. You'll serve 2 years with eligibility for early release based on good behavior. Catherine showed no reaction. Just nodded. Additionally, the judge continued, you're ordered to perform 5,000 hours of community service upon release, working with trafficking survivors. You'll forfeit all assets acquired through criminal activity. And you'll cooperate with ongoing investigations into remaining network members. I understand, Your Honor. Ms. Ashford. The judge's tone softened. I hope you use your time to continue the transformation you've begun. The court believes you can do more good outside prison than inside. Prove us right. I will, Your Honor. I promise. Marshals approached to take Catherine into custody. She turned to Marcus and Lily. I love you both, she said. I'll see you soon. Lily ran forward, hugging her mother fiercely. 2 years. We can do 2 years. We can do anything, Catherine whispered. We already survived worse. Marcus kissed his wife. No words needed. Just presence. Then Catherine was led away. 6 months into Catherine's sentence, something unexpected happened. Viktor Kozlov requested a meeting with her. Federal prison allowed it under supervision. Catherine agreed, curious despite herself. They sat across from each other in a sterile visiting room. Glass between them. Guards watching. Viktor looked smaller somehow. Prison had stripped away his arrogance, leaving just a tired old criminal. Why did you testify for me? Catherine asked. A trial. You could have buried me. Viktor smiled sadly. Because you were the only one who fought back. In 4 years of working with my organization, you were the only person who developed a conscience. That doesn't explain. I have a daughter, Victor interrupted. 32 years old. Lives in Moscow. I haven't seen her in 15 years. Catherine waited. When I heard you tried to trade yourself for Sarah Morrison, I remembered something. Victor's voice cracked. My daughter was once young and vulnerable. And I wasn't there to protect her. But you were there for Sarah. That doesn't absolve what I did. No. Nothing absolves us. Victor leaned forward. But maybe it means something that we tried to be better. Even if we failed. Is that why you wanted to see me? To seek absolution? No. Victor pulled out a photograph. Showed it to Catherine through the glass. It was a young woman. Dark hair. Kind eyes. My daughter, Victor said. She's a social worker now. Helps trafficking victims in Russia. He laughed bitterly. She has no idea what her father really did. Thinks I was a legitimate businessman. Why are you showing me this? Because when I heard about your sentence, 2 years, community service with survivors, I realized something. Victor's eyes were wet. You'll have a chance to become what my daughter already is. To help victims. To create good from evil. And you won't, Catherine said quietly. I won't. Victor nodded. 30 years. I'll die in prison. But knowing that you'll do the work I should have done? That my testimony helped give you that chance. He smiled. It's the closest I'll ever come to redemption. Catherine felt something unexpected. Not forgiveness. Not friendship. But understanding. Your daughter sounds wonderful, Catherine said. She is. Despite me. Victor stood. Don't waste your second chance, Catherine. Live the life I taught my daughter to live. The life I was too coward to live myself. He walked away without looking back. Catherine sat alone in that visiting room, processing. She'd expected this meeting to be confrontational. Expected hatred, manipulation, games. Instead, she'd found a broken man seeking meaning in his daughter's choices. It wasn't the confrontation she'd imagined. It was something far more human. Catherine was released after 18 months for good behavior. The day she walked out of prison, Marcus and Lily were waiting. So were Emma and Sarah. Catherine looked different. Thinner. Hair starting to gray. But her eyes were clear. Purposeful. Ready? Marcus asked. For what? Your new job. Marcus drove them to a building in Brooklyn. Newly renovated. Fresh paint. A sign out front. Catherine's Place, Support Center for Trafficking Survivors. Catherine stared. What is this? Your community service? Emma said, stepping forward. 5,000 hours. We figured you'd need a proper facility. I don't understand. Sarah and I run it, Emma continued. But we need someone with experience. Someone who understands what these kids have been through. Someone they can trust because she survived it too. Catherine walked inside. The space was beautiful. Common rooms. Therapy offices. Classrooms. Living spaces for kids with nowhere else to go. We have 17 residents currently, Sarah said, appearing at her mother's side. Catherine had started calling Sarah that, her daughter by choice, not blood. All trafficking survivors. All needing guidance from someone who won't judge them. I was their trafficker. You were their victim too, Emma corrected. And now you're their advocate. If you want to be. Catherine looked at Marcus. You did this. I funded it. But Emma and Sarah built it. Marcus smiled. Your 5,000 hours start tomorrow. Welcome to the rest of your life. Catherine walked through the facility, seeing kids who reminded her of herself. Of Sarah. Broken but fighting. Lost but searching. This was her confrontation. Not with Victor in a prison visiting room. Not with the prosecution in a courtroom. But with herself. With the person she'd been versus the person she could become. I'll do it, she said. All 5,000 hours and more. Whatever these kids need. Emma hugged her. Welcome to the team. The confrontation is over. But it wasn't what you might have expected. Catherine didn't face down Victor in some dramatic showdown. She didn't get revenge on the people who imprisoned her. She didn't even have a courtroom confrontation where she destroyed her enemies with words. Instead, she faced herself. Her guilt. Her responsibility. and chose to spend the rest of her life helping the very people her crimes had hurt. Do you feel satisfied with how this played out? Or would you have wanted Catherine to confront her captors more dramatically? Would you have wanted Victor to suffer more? Would you have wanted a bigger, more cinematic finale? There's no wrong answer here. Different people need different kinds of closure. But I think Catherine's story is ultimately about this. Real transformation isn't about dramatic confrontations. It's about quiet, daily choices to be better than you were yesterday. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because we're heading into the final act, where we see what happens when people who've transformed through trauma try to build something lasting. Where we find out if second chances are real, or just another story we tell ourselves to feel better. Stay with me. The ending is worth it. Viktor Kozlov died in prison 3 years into his sentence. Heart attack in the exercise yard. Probably painless. More mercy than he'd shown his victims. When Catherine heard the news, she felt nothing. Not relief. Not satisfaction. Just emptiness where hatred used to live. Does that make me a bad person? She asked Marcus that night. No, he replied. It makes you someone who's moved past needing his suffering to feel whole. The rest of Victor's organization crumbled without him. 37 convictions. Networks dismantled across 3 continents. Hundreds of children rescued from situations no child should ever face. Dmitry Volkov got 25 years. The other lieutenants received similar sentences. Some cut deals and disappeared into witness protection, forever looking over their shoulders. The money, millions seized from shell companies, went to victims' funds. Reparations. Treatment. New starts. Justice wasn't perfect. Some perpetrators escaped. Some victims never recovered. But it was something. More than nothing. A crack in the armor of evil that had seemed invincible. Catherine learned to accept that imperfect justice was still justice. Catherine's place expanded. Within 2 years, they'd helped 83 survivors. 3 more facilities opened across New York. Then one in Chicago. Another in Los Angeles. Catherine worked every single day. Therapy sessions. Life skills classes. Court advocacy. Being present for kids who needed to see that survival was possible. She was good at it. Better than she'd ever been at anything. One evening, a 16-year-old girl arrived. Fresh from a trafficking situation. Traumatized. Angry. Refusing to trust anyone. I don't want your help, the girl spat. You people always say you care, but you don't. You can't understand. Catherine sat across from her. Didn't speak for a long moment. Then she rolled up her sleeve, showing scars from 3 years of captivity. You're right, Catherine said quietly. Most people can't understand. But I can. Because I lived it too. The girl's eyes widened. I was held for 3 years, Catherine continued. Beaten. Threatened. Forced to do things that still give me nightmares. And when I got out, I had to decide, let it destroy me or use it to help others. Which did you choose? Both, honestly. Catherine smiled sadly. Some days I'm destroyed. Some days I'm helpful. Most days I'm somewhere in between. But I show up anyway. The girl started crying. I don't know how to be normal again. Neither do I. Catherine reached across the table. But we can figure it out together. That girl stayed. Got help. Started healing. 3 years later, she graduated high school. Applied to college. Became a peer counselor at Catherine's place. Stories like that happened again and again. Catherine kept count. Not for pride. But because on dark days when her own trauma screamed, she needed reminders that the work mattered. 83 survivors helped. 32 graduated high school. 17 enrolled in college. 9 found stable employment. 4 started families. Numbers that represented lives reclaimed from darkness. Marcus's company recovered. Slowly. The new protocols he'd implemented became industry standard. Other tech companies adopted them. Congressional oversight eventually lightened as Ashford Industries proved its commitment to ethical practices. Stock prices climbed back. Not to previous heights, but respectably. Marcus didn't care about the money anymore. He'd learned what mattered. Every evening he left the office by 6. No exceptions. Dinner with Catherine and Lily became sacred. Non-negotiable. They talked about real things now. Feelings. Fears. Dreams. The messy, complicated truth of being human. Lily thrived. She was 12 now. Smart. Compassionate. Volunteering at Catherine's place on weekends, helping younger kids with homework. I want to be a therapist, Lily announced one night at dinner. For kids who've been through trauma. Catherine and Marcus exchanged glances. You sure, sweetheart? Marcus asked. It's hard work. Emotionally draining. I know. Lily's voice was firm. But someone helped you, Mom. Someone helped Sarah. Someone needs to help the next kids. Why not me? Catherine felt tears sting her eyes. Why not you indeed? This was the gift she'd never expected. A daughter who understood that pain could transform into purpose. That suffering didn't have to be wasted. Lily was proof that trauma could be survived without being inherited. Emma and Sarah lived together in a brownstone in Brooklyn. Not huge. Not fancy. But theirs. Sarah graduated from NYU with a degree in social work. Started working at Catherine's place full-time, running their education program. She specialized in helping kids transition from survival mode to student mode, teaching them that their brains still worked, their futures still existed, their worth wasn't defined by what had been done to them. Sarah was extraordinary at it. Emma became the organization's director of outreach. She understood homelessness, survival, desperation. Could talk to kids on the streets in ways trained social workers never could. Together, they created pipelines from streets to safety. Found kids before trafficking networks did. Offered alternatives to the terrible choices desperation forced. They saved lives. Literally. One afternoon, Marcus visited their office. Brought coffee and the financial reports Emma had requested. The foundation's funding is secure for another 5 years, Marcus said. Between my donations and other donors you've attracted, you're solid. Emma looked at the numbers. Enough to expand. Enough to hire more staff. Enough to reach more kids. Thank you, she said, for believing in us when we were just a desperate girl on the streets and a traumatized kid with nightmares. You were never just anything, Marcus replied. You were warriors who refused to quit. I just gave you resources to do what you would have done anyway. Sarah appeared in the doorway. Hey Marcus. Staying for the graduation? Graduation? We have 6 kids completing our 6-month program today. Sarah grinned. Little ceremony. We'd love for you to be there. Marcus stayed. Watched 6 teenagers receive certificates representing hell survived. Watched them smile, some for the first time in years. Watched Catherine present each one with a bracelet. Silver. Simple. Inscribed with their graduation date. This isn't the end, Catherine told them. It's a beginning. Wear it to remember you survived. Wear it to remind yourself you're stronger than anything that tried to break you. One girl, 17, trafficked at 14, touched her bracelet with trembling fingers. Thank you, she whispered, for not giving up on me. We never will, Catherine promised. Marcus realized something watching that ceremony. This was where his billions mattered most. Not in stock portfolios or real estate, but in moments like these. Lives transformed. Futures restored. Hope reignited. 4 years after her release, Catherine visited her own therapist. She'd been going weekly since prison. Processing trauma. Guilt. The weight of what she'd enabled and what she'd endured. I had a dream last night, Catherine said. About the moment I agreed to launder money for Victor. I could see my face in the dream. I looked so young. So scared. What did you feel watching her? Pity. Catherine paused. And anger. I wanted to scream at her, don't do it. Walk away. It's not worth it. But she couldn't hear me. Because she was you. And you can't change the past. No. Catherine looked at her hands. But I keep thinking, what if I'd been braver? What if I'd said no from the beginning? How many kids would have been spared? Her therapist leaned forward. Catherine, you've been asking that question for 4 years. What answer would satisfy you? I don't know. Because there isn't one. You made terrible choices. You also made heroic choices. You enabled evil and you stopped evil. You're not one thing. That doesn't feel like enough. It's not about being enough. The therapist's voice was gentle. It's about being human. Flawed. Capable of both great harm and great good. Most people never face their capacity for evil. You did. You looked at it directly and chose to change. Catherine felt something shift. Not absolution. Not forgiveness. But acceptance. The kids at the facility, Catherine said slowly. They don't need me to be perfect. They need me to be honest about having been broken and choosing to rebuild. Yes. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it is. Catherine left that session feeling lighter. Not fixed. Not healed. But less burdened by the expectation of perfection. She was human. Fallible. Redeemed not through perfection but through persistent choice to do better. That night, she told Marcus about the session. I'm never going to feel like I've done enough, she said. Never going to feel like I've atoned fully. Good, Marcus replied. Catherine blinked. Good. If you felt fully absolved, you'd stop trying. The fact that you still feel the weight means you'll keep pushing. Keep helping. Keep choosing good even when it's hard. That's exhausting. Yes. Marcus pulled her close. But it's also called integrity. And I'm proud of you for choosing it every single day. 5 years after Catherine's release, she received an invitation. A benefit gala. 4 trafficking survivors. Hosted by the foundation she'd once used as a cover for money laundering. The foundation had been restructured. New board. New mission. Actually helping kids now instead of enabling their exploitation. And they wanted Catherine as keynote speaker. You don't have to go, Marcus said when she showed him the invitation. No one would blame you for declining. I know. Catherine stared at the embossed paper. But maybe I should. Face the place where it all started. The night of the gala, Catherine stood backstage, heart pounding. She wore the same navy suit from her trial. No jewelry except her wedding ring and a simple silver bracelet, matching the ones she gave to graduates. Marcus squeezed her hand. You've got this. Catherine walked on stage. The ballroom was packed. Donors. Advocates. Survivors. She began speaking. 5 years ago, I stood in a courtroom and admitted to using this foundation as a cover for criminal activity. I stood here, in this very room, and pretended to care about at-risk youth while actively participating in their exploitation. The room was silent. I can't undo that. No amount of apology or service erases what I enabled. But what I can do, what I must do, is show up every single day and choose differently. She told her story. The cowardice. The captivity. The choice to rebuild. I work with trafficking survivors now. Kids who've been through hell I helped create. And you know what they teach me? That transformation is possible. That we're not defined by our worst moments if we're willing to do the work of becoming better. Catherine looked out at the audience. Saw tears. Saw survivors nodding. Saw recognition. So tonight, when you write checks or make pledges, know this. Your money doesn't just fund programs. It funds second chances. It funds the belief that people can change. That survivors can heal. That hope is more powerful than trauma. She finished speaking. The room erupted in applause. But the moment that mattered came afterward. A young woman approached. 19. Dressed professionally. Ms. Ashford? I'm Rebecca. I was one of them. One of the kids trafficked through the network you helped fund. Catherine's breath caught. Rebecca, I know. Rebecca held up a hand. I know you're sorry. I've seen your work at Catherine's place. I've read about your testimony, your sentence, everything. I understand if you're angry. I was. Rebecca's voice was firm. For years I was furious. At everyone who enabled what happened to me. But then I started my own healing, and I realized something. What? Holding on to that anger was giving my traffickers power they didn't deserve. They took years from me. I wasn't going to let them take my future too. Rebecca paused. What you did was wrong. But what you're doing now matters. And that's enough for me to move forward. Catherine felt tears streaming down her face. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just keep showing up for those kids. They need to see that people who hurt them can choose to help them instead. Rebecca walked away, leaving Catherine standing in that ballroom, the place where her fall began, feeling something she hadn't expected. 5 years after everything fell apart, here's where everyone ended up. Viktor Kozlov, dead in prison, his empire destroyed. Catherine, running 3 facilities helping trafficking survivors, having helped over 150 kids rebuild their lives. Marcus, still wealthy but changed, prioritizing family over empire. Lily, 12 years old, volunteering at her mother's facility, planning to become a trauma therapist. Emma and Sarah, together, thriving, running outreach programs that save kids from the streets. Looking at where everyone ended up, do you believe in karma? Or is this just the natural consequence of choices? Because some people would say Catherine got off easy, 2 years in prison for enabling trafficking. Others would say her real punishment is living every day knowing what she enabled, choosing to face that guilt rather than running from it. What do you think? Is justice about punishment or transformation? About paying for the past or building a better future? I genuinely want to hear your perspective. Drop it in the comments. Because we're heading into the final moments of this story, where we find out what happily ever after really means for people who've been through hell. Spoiler, it's not what you'd expect. 6 years after that October evening when Emma first appeared in Marcus's garden, the Ashford family gathered for Lily's 13th birthday. No massive party. No hired entertainers. Just family, blood and chosen, sitting around a table, eating cake, telling stories. Lily blew out her candles, made a wish, then looked around at the people who'd survived hell together. Can I say something? She asked. Everyone turned to listen. I know my story is weird, Lily began. Most kids don't have moms who went to prison, or dads who almost lost everything trying to find the truth. Most kids don't have aunts like Emma and Sarah who lived on the streets searching for each other. She paused, gathering her thoughts. But I'm glad this is my story, because it taught me something important. We're not defined by what happens to us. We're defined by what we choose to do next. Catherine wiped tears from her eyes. Marcus squeezed his daughter's hand. So thank you, Lily continued, all of you, for showing me that second chances are real. That families are built, not born. And that love is choosing to show up even when it's hard. Sarah stood and hugged her. You're going to change the world, kid. Maybe, Lily said. But first I'm going to finish this cake. Everyone laughed. The moment passed. But its meaning lingered. This was the real victory. Not wealth. Not revenge. Not vindication. Just a girl who'd watched her family shatter and rebuild, learning that broken things could be stronger than new ones. Later that evening, Marcus and Catherine sat on their back porch, watching the stars. Do you ever wish it had been different? Catherine asked. That none of this had happened? Marcus considered. 6 years ago I would have said yes. Now. He shook his head. I was building an empire but losing my soul. You were trapped in work you hated, too scared to escape. We were wealthy but miserable. We lost 3 years. We found ourselves. Marcus turned to face her. I learned that control is an illusion. That the people you push away are sometimes the ones you need most. That being powerful means nothing if you're not present. And I learned that cowardice has a cost, Catherine added. That silence enables evil. That redemption isn't about one heroic act. It's about 1,000 small choices to be better. They sat quietly, letting the weight of those lessons settle. What would you tell someone going through what we went through? Marcus asked. Catherine thought for a long moment. I tell them that rock bottom is real. That you can lose everything. Your freedom, your reputation, your sense of self. But I'd also tell them that rock bottom is just a foundation. What you build on it determines who you become. That's good. Emma taught me that. She lost everything and built purpose from the rubble. Catherine smiled. Funny how the homeless girl I dismissed ended up teaching me what really matters. Marcus laughed. The homeless girl who saved all of us. Lily was accepted to a specialized high school for gifted students the following year. She chose to focus on psychology and social work. By 16, she was volunteering at Catherine's place 20 hours a week. By 18, she'd helped develop a peer mentorship program that became a model for facilities nationwide. She never forgot where she came from. Never forgot the night her mother disappeared, or the years of therapy that followed, or the moment she'd been held at gunpoint by a man who trafficked children. But she also never let those memories define her limits. "I'm not a victim," she told interviewers years later. "I'm a survivor who chose to become a helper." There's a difference. Sarah finished her master's degree in social work and took over day-to-day operations at Catherine's place. Under her leadership, the organization expanded to 12 cities, helping over 800 survivors annually. She wrote a book about her experience, 3 Years Lost, Forever Found. It became required reading in social work programs across the country. In interviews, Sarah always credited two people, her sister Emma, who never stopped searching, and Catherine, who protected her even while imprisoned. "Families aren't always blood," Sarah would say. "Sometimes they're people who choose you when no one else will." Emma became a nationally recognized advocate for homeless youth and trafficking survivors. She testified before Congress, consulted with law enforcement, trained social workers. But her most important work remained on the streets, finding kids before predators did, offering alternatives to desperation, being visible proof that survival was possible. She never forgot those 3 years sleeping in shelters, searching for Sarah. Never forgot the cold, the hunger, the fear. And she never stopped using that pain to fuel purpose. Viktor Kozlov's name became synonymous with evil in trafficking circles. His network's dismantling was studied in criminal justice classes. His methods were analyzed in prevention programs. But to Catherine, he became something else, a cautionary tale. Viktor wasn't born a monster, she told a class of social work students one day. He was born human, made choices that gradually hardened him, chose money over morality so many times that eventually he couldn't see the difference. "Do you hate him?" a student asked. "I did. For years." Catherine paused. "But hate is exhausting. And ultimately pointless. Viktor died in prison. His empire is gone. Hating him now would only give him power he doesn't deserve." "So you forgive him?" "No." Catherine's voice was firm. "Forgiveness isn't about the perpetrator. It's about freeing yourself from their hold. I don't forgive Viktor, but I've stopped letting him occupy space in my head." This was the lesson she wished she'd learned earlier. Your enemy's opinions don't define you. Their actions might wound you, but your response determines whether those wounds become scars or shackles. Viktor's legacy was destruction. Catherine's legacy was choosing to build despite him. That was the only revenge that mattered. Maybe you're watching this story wondering what it has to do with your life. You're not a billionaire. You haven't been imprisoned. You're not fighting trafficking networks. But here's the thing. The principles are universal. We all face moments where we have to choose between self-preservation and doing right. Between staying silent or speaking up. Between building walls or building bridges. We all experience loss, betrayal, the shattering of what we thought we knew. And we all face the choice. Let it break us or use it to become someone stronger. Marcus learned that control is an illusion, but presence is everything. That wealth means nothing if you're not connected to the people who matter. Catherine learned that past mistakes don't have to define your future. That transformation is possible if you're willing to do the work. That redemption isn't about one grand gesture, it's about showing up every single day. Emma learned that persistence matters more than privilege. That 3 years of homelessness and rejection couldn't stop her if she refused to quit. Lily learned that children of trauma can become healers instead of victims. That you can witness darkness and still choose light. What will you learn from your struggles? What will you build from your rubble? Because that's the real story here. Not the billionaire or the traffickers or the courtroom drama, but the truth that we're all capable of transformation, all capable of choosing better, all capable of turning our worst moments into our greatest purpose. 10 years after that October evening, Marcus and Catherine sat in the same garden where Emma first appeared. The gazebo where everything changed. "Do you remember what you were thinking that night?" Catherine asked. "When you first saw Emma with Lily?" "I thought she was a threat." Marcus smiled sadly. "Saw a homeless woman and assumed the worst. Never considered she might be exactly what Lily needed." "And what I needed," Catherine added. "If Emma hadn't kept searching, I'd still be imprisoned. Sarah would still be suffering. Our family would still be broken. All because she refused to give up. All because she loved her sister more than she feared failure." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and purple. The same sky Emma had taught Lily to read years ago. "We should put a plaque here," Marcus said suddenly. "On this gazebo." "Saying what?" "The place where strangers became family. Where walls became bridges. Where a homeless girl changed everything." Catherine laughed. "That's terrible. Way too sentimental." "You're right." Marcus grinned. "How about, sometimes the people you push away are the ones you need most." "Better. Still cheesy." "Fine. You write it." Catherine thought for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice quiet but certain. "Second chances are earned through daily choice. This is where ours began." Marcus nodded. "Perfect." Because that was the truth they'd learned through fire. Second chances aren't granted. They're built. One choice at a time. One day at a time. One act of courage at a time. And sometimes, they start with a homeless girl in a garden, teaching a lonely child about stars. Sometimes, that's enough to change everything. If you've made it this far, nearly 3 hours, thank you. Genuinely. This story was about more than a billionaire and a homeless girl. It was about the complexity of guilt and redemption. About how victims can become perpetrators and perpetrators can become allies. About how the people we dismiss might be the ones who save us. But mostly it was about this. We're all capable of transformation if we're willing to face hard truths and make hard choices. Marcus and Catherine's story didn't end with happily ever after. It ended with daily ever after, the unsexy work of showing up, doing better, choosing love over fear. That's the real victory. Not wealth. Not revenge. Not vindication. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing you became someone worthy of a second chance. And then you used it. What will you do with yours? So let's look at what we just witnessed over the past 3 hours. A billionaire who built walls so high he couldn't see his daughters suffering behind them. A woman who made terrible choices out of fear, then spent years paying for them in ways a prison sentence could never capture. A homeless girl who lived on the streets for 3 years, refusing to abandon hope when everyone else said to move on. And a little girl who watched her world shatter, then helped glue the pieces back together. Marcus Ashford went from a man worth $4.7 billion who had nothing that mattered, to someone who understood that presence beats power every single time. He learned that the empire he built meant nothing if he wasn't there to share it with the people he loved. Catherine transformed from a coward hiding behind good intentions into someone who faces her guilt every single day, and uses it to help others heal. She learned that redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about building a future worthy of the second chance you've been given. Emma proved that privilege isn't what determines success, persistence is. That 3 years of homelessness, hunger, and rejection couldn't stop someone who refused to quit. She turned her pain into purpose and saved lives because of it. And Lily? She learned the most important lesson of all, that children of trauma don't have to become victims. That you can witness the worst of humanity and still choose to become the best version of yourself. This story matters because it's not really about billionaires or trafficking networks or dramatic rescues. It's about choices. Every single day we face decisions. Do we build walls or bridges? Do we let fear make us cowards or does courage make us fighters? Do we judge people by their appearance or do we look deeper? Marcus judged Emma by her tattered clothes and nearly lost everything because of it. The homeless girl he tried to remove was the only person brave enough to keep searching when everyone else gave up. How many times have you dismissed someone because they didn't look like they belonged? How many potential allies have you pushed away because you were too busy protecting yourself to see what they were offering? Catherine's story teaches us that past mistakes don't have to be permanent stains. Yes, she enabled terrible things. Yes, she was complicit in evil. But she also chose to face those truths, accept consequences, and spend the rest of her life trying to do better. That's not weakness. That's the hardest kind of strength. And Emma? Emma teaches us that the world will try to break you. It will take everything you love and leave you with nothing. But if you refuse to quit, if you keep showing up every single day even when it seems pointless, you can change the world. One person, one choice, one act of desperate courage. That's all it takes. If you're watching this and struggling with your own battles, whether it's poverty, trauma, guilt, or just the daily grind of trying to survive, remember this. You are not your circumstances. You are your choices. Marcus had every advantage and still lost what mattered most because he chose control over connection. Emma had nothing and still saved lives because she chose love over bitterness. Your bank account doesn't define you. Your past doesn't define you. Other people's opinions definitely don't define you. What defines you is what you do when everything falls apart. Do you give up? Or do you keep fighting? Catherine could have stayed bitter. Could have blamed Victor for everything. Could have spent her life as a professional victim. Instead, she chose accountability. Chose to help the very people her crimes had hurt. Chose to build something beautiful from the rubble of her mistakes. That's available to you too. No matter what you've done. No matter where you've been. No matter how many times you've failed. Second chances are real. But they're not given. They're earned through daily choice to be better than you were yesterday. If this 3-hour journey moved you, inspired you, or taught you something valuable about resilience, transformation, and the power of refusing to quit, please hit that like button. And drop your biggest takeaway in the comments below. What moment hit you hardest? What lesson will you carry with you? What choice will you make differently because of this story? I read every single comment, and your insights make this community special. Your stories of overcoming, of choosing courage, of refusing to let circumstances define you, those matter just as much as Marcus and Catherine's story. We're all fighting battles no one else sees. We're all capable of both great harm and great good. And we're all worthy of second chances if we're willing to do the work. Next time, I'll be telling you about a woman who lost everything in a single day, her marriage, her home, her reputation, and built an empire from absolute zero that now helps thousands. Her story of going from homeless single mother to self-made millionaire will challenge everything you think you know about success. You won't want to miss it. Remember this, you are not defined by what others think of you. You are defined by how you respond when life tests you. Marcus and Catherine proved that the best response to cruelty isn't revenge, it's building a life so beautiful, so purposeful, so filled with meaning that your critics become irrelevant. Emma proved that persistence beats privilege. That showing up matters more than starting ahead. That the people the world dismisses might be the ones who change everything. And Lily proved that the next generation doesn't have to inherit our trauma. That children can learn from our mistakes instead of repeating them. That broken families can become stronger than new ones. So whatever you're facing right now, whatever has you doubting yourself, whatever has you feeling like giving up, remember their story. Remember that Marcus went from paranoid billionaire to present father. That Catherine went from coward to advocate. That Emma went from homeless to heroic. That Lily went from traumatized to thriving. Transformation is real. Second chances are possible. And you are capable of becoming someone you'd be proud to meet. Until next time, stay strong, stay focused, and never let anyone convince you that you're nothing. You're not nothing. You're everything you choose to become. And that choice? That choice is always yours.